Hello, everyone. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this second day of this technology conference. A slight delay in starting the conference because we had people, one from the northern part of the country and one from US, who has joined us at 3:30 a.m. in the morning. So just some logistic delays, and we just wanted to set it up all right. So for all of you. Also today I have with me our regional council member, one who really does a lot with technology, who's a established resolution professional as well, and uses technology in almost every sphere of his working, and encourages it also. So I would like all of you to please welcome Vikas Jain, regional council member from Ahmedabad, amongst us. Vikas bhai, I'm glad to inform you that today this conference, usually that we say national conference and people from India, but not only India, we have people all over from the globe. So there are people from outside India as well, other countries who are attending this conference with us today. You can imagine the time zones that they are managing just to get hang of the technology. So I would first request you and invite you to please share your opening comments for this conference.
Thank you very much, Arpit bhai. And yeah, very well said. And this is the reason that WRC is being said is the best reason of the ICI, because we are always working with a futuristic approach. Though I am very much part of the WRC, so I cannot praise myself or my team. But yes, अपने आप पे काबू नहीं रख सकते, कभी कभी बोल लेते हैं. So it's like that. But undoubtedly, we at WRC are striving to see that the best of the things come for the members, and we need to think about the future. Because if we cannot foresee the future, for sure we are going to be redundant. As the technology keeps on getting redundant, same way we also will be redundant one day. And if, I would say that with all this, most of the time this accounting, income tax, GST, all these things, the way we have been doing will be redundant. Things will be there, accounting will be there, income tax will be there, GST will be there, everything would be there. But the way we have been doing, this will for sure go away. So we need to focus more on technology. So until unless we are technologically literate, we would be treated as illiterate only. So that is the new buzzword, I would say. So yes, and with all these futuristic approach, our WIRC is striving to give the best of the knowledge sharing, skill development for our members, and that is the reason we have got the best of the speakers in the form of Yashpal ji and Aditya ji. Aditya ji have joined through from US, and Yashpal ji from our own country, he from the northern part of the country, is said by Arpit bhai, and Palak is also eagerly waiting to hear all these things. So great to have this program today, and I am sure that all the members will go home enriched after this particular sessions, I would say. And I'm also having the privilege to introduce our today's learned faculty, Yashpal ji. So, sir, first of all, at least welcome to you to this session. And Yashpal ji is a seasoned IT professional with over more than 20 years of experience in the field of information technology. So it's a long journey, I would say 20 years actually when the IT industry started picking up, I would say. So since then, from the very nascent stage of IT, he is almost there. So we would be having many more things to learn from him today. And he is having associated with some of the global leading IT conglomerates such as Siemens, IBM, and having worked across India, Southeast, and the Middle East regions. So he's having vast experience with him. He also comes with rich experience across various technology offerings, and currently working as a director with the strategic partnerships and automation, and even the global leader in the robotics process automation category. He is responsible for building strategic partnerships across the region. Across his multiple assignments that he has handled, he has been working very closely with a number of CXOs and entrepreneurs to help them adopt and build capability around various cutting edge technology. So the introduction reads on. So for sure today we are going to learn lot many new things from Yashpal ji. Sir, over to you. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you, Vikas bhai. Thank you, Vikas bhai. And friends, imagine a scenario where you are doing compliances, which is taking the most of your time today. Imagine a scenario where Yashpal ji comes and gives you a small little pen drive and tells it that just plug this pen drive in and you keep a ready database in an Excel file, and believe me, all of your compliances would be done in just a click of your fingers. This is what robotics can do. This is what is possible. This is what is being tested live. So all these compliances of MCA, GST, all of these are done in a very efficient manner now, with of course with the pure database. So we heard about data and its importance yesterday. Today we are going to see some implementation of using the data, robotics and through machine learning. This entire conference was designed in such a manner that we could have a flow, since we have a limited time now, that is 6 hours totally. So 3 hour session one day, 3 hour session other day, we could only squeeze in four. So we according to us, the best four is what we have brought for you. So with all these words, I really welcome Yashpalji again, and I'll request Yashpalji to please carry on with the session.
Thank you so much, team. Thank you so much. And Vikasji, you have summed it quite well. In fact, वो कहते हैं ना, निष्कर्ष पूरे presentation का आपने दे दिया है. So thank you so much for that. And good evening, everybody, and a warm welcome to everybody. My name is Yashpal Negi, and before I start, I wish to thank the Digital Assurance Board for giving me this opportunity to share my experience around RPA and its utilities in the financial services company, right? So I personally feel, right, owing to the COVID-19 pandemics, the need for digital transformation is felt like never before. Lot of organizations across the globe are grappling with the situation where you don't have 100% of employee being able to go to the office. Your systems are not up and running 24/7, and there are a lot of issues, right? So I feel this is a more apt time. It couldn't have been more apt than this time, where we are talking about such technology. I understand we spoke about data science, we talked about machine learning, and so as far as RPA is concerned, it's a pretty simple technology. And as I would take you through the slides that I have, it's a powerful technology with a very simple approach, right? So if you look at it, as I said, like lot of organizations are adopting technology and to ensure that they are more flexible and agile, and can scale up as the situation demands, right? Organizations who have been very rigid, right, or who have been very rigid, took some time to scale up, have seen business challenges, have seen issues in growing in the businesses. Vis-a-vis the companies who have been have already embarked on the digital transformation, they were minimum impacted during this pandemic, right? And we have many examples, right, that we would have experienced, right? During the pandemic, we had the online retailers. I have my friend from Amazon also on the call. So Amazon pretty much, the businesses were undisrupted. In fact, the businesses grew, right? And that's because they had embarked on the digital transformation way ahead, right? So these are some of the benefits on a digital transformation. Honestly, barring few industries, work from home was a remote possibility, right? And especially in the finance and accounting, I don't think a lot of people would really warm up to the idea of having employee working from home. But you see today, most of the employees, especially with the 33% cap, are working from home, and we are still, it's business as usual, right? So that's something which is becoming the reality. That is something which is now becoming the new normal, as they say, right? As a matter of fact, in the recent survey, which was released by McKinsey, McKinsey stated that globally, owing to this pandemic, right, we have actually growth from a technology adoption standpoint. We have catapulted at least about 5 years ahead of time, which otherwise. So, point what I'm trying to drive home here is the maturity of IT that we have seen now, which otherwise would have taken at least 4 to 5 years. We have just done it over last couple of months, right? So it's as they call it, right? It's like necessity is the mother of all invention, right? And that's what we have seen it in the last couple of months into this pandemic. Right. So if you look at it, I believe human and technology, they both go hand in hand, right? And we have been building technology to enrich our experience, to enrich our customer experience, to provide services to our customers in a better way, right? And we have seen how there are companies like Uber, right? It's basically a cab, nothing to do with technology, right? But the entire framework is built on technology. And look at now the entire, from a Kali Pili taxi to what we have moved to Uber right now. So that's the customer experience we are talking about. Airbnb, and we have a lot more experiences that we experience every day, right? So just to set the context, I think while pandemic has been very harsh on the businesses, but it's also a opportunity for each one of us to to look at the writing on the wall. This is not the first time it had happened. Well, the earliest Spanish flu happened at least about 100 years back, but then there is no guarantee that it may not happen, in near future. So we need to be prepared. We need to be ready. We need to ensure that there's a minimum disruption to our businesses, and it's business as usual for us, right? Next slide, please.
Mr. Ji, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So here is what I intend to cover. So a brief overview on Automation Anywhere. As I said, I work for Automation Anywhere. I am Director of Strategic Partnerships, and I'll give you a brief introduction about Automation Anywhere, what we do, and obviously the need for human technology collaborations, and some of the other stuff that we cover. Next slide, please. All right, cool. So, well, actually, the number says it all, right? But just to give you a perspective, Automation Anywhere was formed 16 years back, and Automation Anywhere had a very humble beginning. We started from Baroda. In fact, Baroda was our office 16 years back, and it continues to be our office in Baroda. It was formed by 4 Indian founders, and so it's only about 4 or 5 years when we really had this RPA being acknowledged as a category which is fast growing. That's when we moved our head office from Baroda to Silicon Valley. We now have a global head office in San Jose. We have more than 2.1 million digital bots being installed. We have more than 90. We serve in more than 90 plus countries, right? And we have more than 3,400 enterprise customers. So if you look at, we are among the top rated company when it comes to robotic process automation, and it's not a statement made by me, but if you look at on your right hand side, you name it, and most of the leading research agency would resonate the same, right? So be it HFS, be it Gartner, be it Forrester, OM, and so on and so forth. As a matter of fact, I wanted to highlight, so Gartner rated us as the leader in the Magic Quadrant, right? And essentially, the entire evaluation was on product, right? Product in terms of the product innovation, product scalability, and the pricing. And they found us to be offering the most, innovative product, had a very compelling roadmap, and secured, scalable, and obviously, at a very competitive price position. In my subsequent slide, I will walk you down to the human technology collaboration, just jogging down the memory, just to bring you a context of what I eventually would want to say. Next slide, please. All right. So this is not something which I have said, right? So problem is not whether machines think, but whether human do, right? Now that's a very big statement and very powerful statement, right? We all talk about AI, we talk about AML, we talk about machines becoming more and more intelligent. So we know, right? So that's a roadmap that we have. That's a technology evolution that's happening, right? But do human think, right? And obviously the answer is yes, right? We do think, right? And that's the reason we have all these technologies coming forward. Now this was a very bold statement which was made by one of the leading American psychologists, B.F. Skinner, right? And so if you look at in today's corporate world, right, everybody is grappling to meet deadlines, right? Be it financial deadline, be it anything else, right? So it could be your deadline to submit a proposal, it could be for reporting your financial data, it could be completing your audit. So everybody is grappling with those timelines, and especially in this pandemic situation, it's all the more difficult because not all the teams are there in the office. They are all working in silos from different locations. So it's becoming more and more difficult for a lot of organizations, a lot of people to adhere to those timelines, right? And as a result of which, in the process of meeting the deadline, what we more often than not do is it's more of doing the act part, right? So it's like these are the set of activities that we need to do, and just finish it and come out of it. We don't spend too much time thinking about it, right? What is it that we need to do? And I don't say we don't think, but then what I'm trying to say is 80% of effort is doing things, right, as is basis, right? So it's morning when we come to office, we obviously spend perhaps some time to thinking, how do I plan my day? But rest of the day is something we just go about executing it, right? We don't really plan what next, how the things can be done differently, right? So it's more of a act than the think piece of it, right? And RPA precisely does that. So what RPA essentially does is it extracts the robots out of the human being, right? So it's to ensure that we take out the mundane repetitive tasks that a human being does, and ensure that humans spend a lot of time in doing a lot of creative and innovation things. So that's RPA, right? And I'll come to that in a bit. Next slide, please. So if you look at this slide, right? So technology, and this is my view, right? So technology helps in innovations. It helps improving the productivity, right? Now, why I say that, right? Because if you look back in the early part of 19th century, right? I'm talking about during the second industrial revolution. There were a lot of innovation which had happened, right? Be it televisions, be it refrigerators, be it typewriters. Now, those all were the product which got innovated or invented during the second, the early part of 19th century, around 1920, and so on and so forth, right? And during 1920, we saw the invention of TVs, and as of 2019, right, we have more than 1.7 billion pay TVs globally. Now, of course, nowadays, if you look at it, you really don't need a TV to watch movies, right? Because it can be viewed on a mobile phone, it could be moved on your tablets, iPads, and so on and so forth, right? The point what I'm trying to drive home here is, right? Just imagine if you were to really work without a television, right? Perhaps we, in today's scenario, we would not be able to have this kind of seminars, right? Because there's nothing to view, right? So that's the point what I'm trying to drive home, right? As a matter of fact, Gartner predicts that Internet of Things, which is part of the Industry Revolution 4.0, is now being extended to the Internet of Behavior, right? Now, why I say that, right? If you look at it today, by virtue of, you say, for example, when you step out of your house, you switch on your GPS, try to understand what's the traffic scenario on the road, so that you can plan your schedule. Your machines, your washing machines, your refrigerators, they are all now sensor enabled. So earlier, when there was a situation where you used to view TVs, now it's the machines viewing humans, right? So that's the point what I'm trying to make. It's more of human behavior that's really coming to the fore. Now, if now it's the human who will finally make the technology good, right? Because if we don't consume technology, they are of no use, right? And they will be able to do only if they are creative, innovative in their approach. But what is holding them, right? So just to take a step back, so what we really spoke about so far is we spoke about the technology and how technology has been innovated over the last century or so, and what impact it has what impact it has had on the human being as a whole. And but as I said, right, technology is as good as individual person using it. So if we don't really leverage those technology, it's not really making any sense. But then if you ask, and this was some data points which I collected from some of my industry peers, is recently there was a survey which was done by the employee, right? And for the employee, typically in the finance and accounting category, and they were asked few questions in terms of how do they see what is really impediment for their productivity, and what is the impediment for their customer engagement, right? Can we have the next slide, please? And it is pretty interesting to see the data. So if you look at the slide, right, so most of the employee who are surveyed, and this is again a very specific to finance and accounting domain, most of the people said one of the biggest challenge that they faced, which is impacting their productivity, is the manual posting, right? There's a lot of manual jobs which is still out there in the marketplace. when you do an audit, when you do a compliance, when you do any sort of financial services activity, there's a lot of manual posting which needs to be done, right? So 69% of the employees said it's the manual posting which is really impacting their productivity, followed by the intercompany reconciliation, which is still in a lot of companies happening manual. And then obviously some of the other aspects such as data quality, the data are not being captured accurately. There are multiple systems which need to be accessed, understood, and so on and so forth. So if one of your customer using Tally, the other SAP or Oracle, so you need to have those kind of expert who understands those application and being able to work, right? And obviously the and the rest part of it, right? The second piece is on the employee engagement, right? As to how are they enjoying their job, right? And this again a FNA statement. If you see here, 61% of the employees said it's an uneven workload, right? And obviously rightly so, you have deadlines to be met. So obviously during the quarter ends or year end, the workload spikes. During ITR filing, the workload spikes. So there's an uneven workload, right? Followed very closely by overtime hours. So which is, I would say, it's our interlink. You tend up in having a lot of time around work and so on and so forth, right? So this, the point what I'm trying to drive home here is, so we have technology and we have seen technology being used across so many years, right? And technology works beautifully only if humans are able to consume that. Now, if a human is busy doing manual posting, employee is busy doing manual intercompany reconciliation, a human is working overtime continuously. So just look at the productivity that he will end up having, right? So this was some of the points which were impediments on the when we talk about the productivity and the employee engagement. So how do we handle it, right? So we talked about technology, we talked about the employee engagement and impediments to improve their productivity. So what is it that we have to offer? Can we have the next slide, please? All right. So like I said, right, we spoke about the technology. We also talk about the challenges, right? So what is really making this technology so complex, right? So one part is obviously humans are saying, employees are saying we don't have too much of time. We are busy doing a lot of manual labor stuff. At the same time, even technologies have grown quite complex, right? If you look at over the period of time, last about 15-20 years, right? We have moved. Can you have the next image, please? Okay. Yeah, thank you. So if you look at the time scale, right, about 15-20 years back, or even slightly more, we just knew a few names, right? So be it, everybody knows obviously Windows. We had Java, we had Linux, and we had mainframe machines, right? Most of the computing were happening on mainframe, right? And obviously people who had mainframe had access to a lot of automation, and obviously it was not easy to afford a mainframe. So that's the reason the adoption really didn't grow well as it anticipated to be. But over a period of time, depending on the requirement, we kept on building new applications, right? So we have SAP, we have Sage, we have Oracle, we have PeopleSoft, and so on. And over a period of time, if you look at it, today practically we have one application for each use case, right? Or each requirement. So if you're looking at an enterprise-wide resource planning ERP, you might have an SAP, you might have an Oracle. If your company is into some sort of B2C, if you want to maintain a CRM, then you will have something like Salesforce. If you are into marketing, then you might have to look at Marketo and HubSpot and so on and so forth, right? And obviously then you have the BI tools, which is Click and Tableau. So what's really happening, right? So today, if you look at it, so now look at the complete spectrum, right? So on one side you have technology, which is fast growing, fast evolving, and it's becoming complex day by day. On the other side, we are seeing employee being bogged down with a lot of manual jobs, right? So how do we really ensure that this two piece actually marry each other? Can we just move to the next piece, please? right? So if you look at it, what essentially this chart talks about it talks about you have a lot of applications, as I said, right? A lot of applications which are siloed in nature and which have increased, right? So SAP is there, Mercato is there, and so on and so forth, right? The deployment model have changed. You have a lot of applications which are pure cloud, which is hosted somewhere else. You have a lot of applications which are for various reasons on premise, right? The consumption of these applications have changed, right? Many people have now access to a lot of the CRM and other stuff on mobile, on tablet. So it's no more a situation wherein you need to log in from an office to get access to the data, right? So you can access it via your tab, you can access it via mobile phone, and so on and so forth, right? And data grew exponentially, right? There are a lot of data which is being generated every day, right? I'm sure yesterday, during yesterday's session, you would have got across structured data, unstructured data, and I'll not go deep into it. But then there's an explosion of unstructured data which is happening, right? And so all the data which is being generated, almost 80% of the data is something which is not comprehended by the machines, right? These are all unstructured data which are lying there, right? So essentially, all the business decisions that you are making, unless and until you are able to transfer this data into a machine understanding data, you are working on those 20% of the data only, right? Can you just have a next thing? So this next piece, please. Okay, all right. So this slide actually is what we have to offer, right? So I spoke about technology. I spoke about technology complexities. I spoke about how human are not being able to spend too much time on technology. And at the same time, data explosion. So there's a huge chaos out there, right? So how do we really handle those ever-growing data? How do we ensure we keep a tab of applications which are getting built every now and so on and so forth, right? So a response to that is you don't have to do anything from a technology side. We understand you are finance professionals. We understand you bring certain value on the table in terms of your finance expertise. Technology is something best handled by technology experts, right? And this is RPA as an attempt to simplify or bridge the gap between the business functions and the technology experts, right? And this is how we essentially try to do. If you look at the chart, you typically have four pieces, and I'll show you in a while by some videos what I really meant by that, right? We have a product called the robotic process automation, which is RPA as we all know it. What it essentially does is it sits on the presentation layer, right, and it mimics a human action. So typically, say for example, a manual posting, right? So there is a data which needs to be captured, and there's a field which is there on the screen, and person simply just picks up the data, sees the data, and enters on the screen, right? There's an account reconciliation which is happening, wherein you try to map two different Excel files and raise the gaps which are there, and so on and so forth. Now, all this thing can be done by an RPA, right? And as I said, I'll show you in a bit as to how it is being done. The second piece of what we have is the IQ bot. Now, it's a very powerful, cognitive bot, which is primarily used for extraction of data. So, like I said, right, we have almost 80% of data which is not really structured data. It's all unstructured data. So you need to have some mechanism to have those data injected into the machine, so that you are able to really have a 100-degree or 360-degree view of the data which is being processed. What IQBot essentially does is it does the extraction pass. So be it invoices, be it your purchase orders, it will extract the data, convert it into an Excel file, and from an Excel file, RPA will pick it up and do a posting. So now look at a scenario wherein you have a situation wherein you need to process an invoice. So you get an invoice over an email. RPA downloads the email, opens the email. IQBot extracts the data from the file, gives it back to RPA. RPA logs into an SAP and starts posting all the data and do a payment processing. Now, this could be a very simple use case, and as I said, I'll show you in a bit as to how it works. More often than not, right? These are all very standard, use case which you find or you hear about when you talk about an RPA. Most of the industries or most of the companies who have gone in for an RPA after having done the procure to pay or order to cash, they sort of grapple with what next, right? How do I? Because it's not something that you have bought something for a particular process. This bots can practically be used for anything that is repetitive in nature and has some certain logic to it. For that, we have something called the discovery bot. What discovery bot does is it actually sits on the client machine. So say for example, in an office environment, you have say about 10 people doing some posting job, right? What it does, it actually captures the keystrokes and the set of activities that each of this guys does, each of this employee does. It will then come up with a suggestion saying this is the best automable process, right? So what it does, it learns from the experience of this 4 or 5 individual and come up with a consolidated view saying this is the best process, best way to handle this particular task, and this is the extent of automation which is possible. And by the way, if you have entered your data in terms of the cost structure of the employee, this is the savings that you will achieve once you do that, right? So very powerful tool, recently been announced about 3 months back. Clients are just loving it. The fourth piece what we have is the bot insight, which basically so all the data which is being processed, right? So as a CFO of the company, everybody would be interested to know what is my ROI, right? What is my payback? Now, having invested in my technology, now how do I really look at how much productive my bots is? Because we all along we have been talking about being productive, being efficient, right? Now, bot insight really gives you those data points. Right? It's a very powerful BI tool, native RPA tool, BI tool, which gives you a insight on the data being processed, the invoices being processed, the be it value, be it volume, and so on and so forth. And very in a very intuitive dashboard. So that these are the 4 offerings that we have to really ensure that the experts such as you don't have to really spend too much time learning the technology, and the technology does it work, right? And it just gives you the output as you would want to have it, immediately, faster, rapidly, and can be really scale up and scale down, right? Next slide, please. All right, thank you. So this is what it summarizes, right? So if after last couple of slides, right? So if I have to really summarize robotic process automation, right? So how do I define RPA? Because I think if we are not able to comprehend or understand by end of this session what is RPA, I think it's an effort not appreciated from your side. So RPA is not, it's a productivity tool. It's an enterprise software tool which that sits on the existing system. See, understand RPA, you don't have to integrate RPA with any of your application, so you don't need too much of technical handholding. What it really does is it really emulates a person, right? So as you would work in on an application, it exactly looks at how you're working, right? When I say look at, it's by way of certain recorders which are part of the solution. It looks at what are the keystrokes sequentially being performed by you, right? So it mimics human being. Second key factor is RPA. You need to have certain decision. Now, obviously, RPA is not as intelligent as human. It can't make decisions on their own. So you need to define those logics. So if it's say point A to point B, if this is the conditions being met, go to point C, or if the condition not met, go to point D. Now, simple rule-based efforts can be automated and can be handled by with greater speed with RPA. And no matter what application you're using, right? So you might have a situation wherein one of your client are using some legacy application, somebody using Tally, somebody using SAP, Oracle. You really don't have to bother about it. You don't really have to bother about identifying a person who knows SAP or Oracle or Tally, because RPA does it all for you, right? It doesn't matter what application is really sitting back, where you need to do your posting, it can handle everything, right? Next slide, please. Now, these are some of the, at a very high level, we have tried to summarize what are the key challenges that today the finance community as large is facing, and what's the driving need for this digital transformation. Now, if you look at a faster close means, if you look at that, so we are talking about macroeconomic pressure, right? Ensure business continuity and growth during the economic recession. liquidity and capital adequacy, expense management, risk and compliance, and timely and accurate reporting. And I'm sure I don't need to emphasize on, and I'm sure there would be much more than this, but then this were the top five that we could gather. And I don't have to emphasize on how important each of these parameters are, right? And the compliance issues that are associated with each of this, right? You don't file a report on time, there's a compliance issue. If you are not able to detect a fraud in a company, there's a compliance issue. There's a risk associated with it, expense management, and so on and so forth, right? So these are some of the key parameters which I've tried to summarize, and I'll just try to sum it up in the next slide. Can we have the next slide, please? All right. So in fact, there was recently there was a survey which was done, and all the CFOs were asked what are their priorities, what are their priorities for 2020 and beyond, right? And I'm sure a lot of you will resonate with this, right? So most of them, they said accounting and reporting accuracy, right? So everybody was worried about revenue leakages. Most of them were worried about timely reporting and so on and so forth, right? 38% were worried about the compliance. They didn't want it to be on the wrong side of the law. They wanted to ensure that whatever initiative that they do, compliance feature as a top priority. And then we had a mixed, equal percentage of them talking about improving cash flow and being able to report a more accurate forecasting, right? Can we have the next slide, please? So today, if you look at it, right, RPA is well positioned to address top finance priorities, and which are those? So number one, as I said, right, improve cash flow. RPA are more and more being used by a lot of companies to improve cash flow, and it can really help you in streamlining your APAR process. In fact, one of the organizations where we have deployed RPA, they said they have been able to improve their cash flow by 2 to 3 days. Now that's huge. You can imagine if there's somebody is doing crores of business, 2 or 3 days of improvement of cash flow means a lot, right? The second is accelerate reporting, right? Improve timelines on the financial reporting and forecasting. The third piece is the increase in productivity, it doesn't need to be emphasized more. And the fourth is the strengthening the controls. Now, RPA is nothing but a digital platform, right? With what it essentially means is every task that RPA does, there's a digital footprint which is there. So tomorrow if there's an audit, right? Or if tomorrow you need to really go back and track what was the mistake which has been done, it's all time and stamp, right? So it becomes a lot more easy for anybody to understand where the gaps are, what are the challenges, and so on and so forth, right? Can we have the next slide, please? Yeah, you can just keep on going. Sure. Next slide. All right. So what am I trying to say, right? So we talked about technology, and unless technology is not consumed by human to improve customer experience, customer satisfaction, it doesn't mean anything, right? RPA is one such technology which really helps a lot of professionals to focus on their core business and leave technology on the RPA side, right? So what we are trying to say here is when human and digital workers, right? When I say digital workers is RPA, software bots that we say, it can really do wonderful things, right? So while we can have RPA do a lot of mundane, repetitive stuff, some of that we spoke about in terms of manual posting, it could be reconciliation. We can have a human focusing more on customer engagement, identifying new opportunities for increasing the revenue, and can be involved in key decision making processes, right? So that's the culmination of technology and human is what. So as I said, right, through RPA we essentially trying to extract the robots out of human being and ensuring that humans are able to spend a lot of time doing creative, innovative things which we are known for, right? Can we have the next slide, please? Okay, so some of the use cases. Okay, these are some of the use cases which are there, and as I said, I have few demos videos with me for you to see it. So be it record to report financial operations, and you can look at general ledger closure, reconciliation, manual journal entries, and so on and so forth, right? Procure to pay or accounts payable, APAR process, one of the very common use case which is being leveraged or used, using RPA. A lot of companies are using it. Order to cash, account receivables, treasury operations, tax operations, financial planning, analysis, and reporting. And these are the subtopics of it. And as I said, right, these are just the top use cases, but this is not exhaustive use case. The way you should look at where you can use an robotic process automation tool is anything which is repetitive in nature, right? Anything which doesn't need too much of creative thinking. It just follows simple logic. It doesn't matter what business you are in. It doesn't matter what business function you are in. It's a ideal candidate for an RPA. You can use it. You can use it in your own office for your own purpose. You can use it for your customer to deliver him more services, to deliver him better services, right? Can we go to the next slide, please? Now, this is the use case where we are essentially talking about, so you can look at this use. Sure, thanks. So if you look at the video which we have just played, this is a very simple use case of account creation that we showed from an SFDC standpoint. But if I have to really extrapolate the business use case, it could be your vendor onboarding from an organization standpoint. If you were to really get a new vendor onboarded, so if you've seen the process, what it essentially does is you have designed a bot to really detect a particular attachment. I think you can just stop this video. Yeah. So what you essentially does is there's an email which comes in. Bot identifies that there is a new email which has come for account creation. It downloads the Excel. It downloads the Excel file. It captures, reads all the data, captures the data, logs into Salesforce, and enter those data out there, right? And thereby creating a new vendor code or the employee code or the customer code. Same thing can be done for your vendor registration. Same thing can be done for your customer onboarding in case of banking, in case of your any of the financial services, right? We have a lot of use cases wherein RPA is used for your KYC purpose, for your extracting data from your loan mortgage and so on and so forth, right? And processing it, right? The second video which I'm going to show you, this is basically an end-to-end video which really talks about, so we talk about those 80% of the data which is in terms of a physical, which is lying on your physical document, right? So you need to have those data being extracted and ingested into the machine, right, for processing it further, right? So this video essentially talks about how do IQ bot, the cognitive bot, really extract the data and intelligently process it and enters into SAP for further processing. Can we play the video, please?
This demo illustrates the use of RPA taskbots for automating accounts payable process end-to-end. Since reading invoices, extracting its data and converting it into a structured form is the most challenging part of such automation, we will review it first. We start with IQBot training, which is based on assisted machine learning. User initiates the training by selecting domain, invoices, selecting recognition language and the fields to extract and uploading sample documents. IQBot automatically reads, classifies documents, and takes a first pass on data extraction based on existing domain knowledge. User reviews the results and submits corrections, which are used by IQBot for self-training. User creates a new learning instance, gives it a name, invoice training, selects domain, invoices, selects language, English, and uploads sample documents. User also checks the set of fields to extract and the list of line item fields. After clicking on Create Instance and Analyze, IQBot leverages AI to start grouping invoices based on their formats and extracting data. When the first document is ready for review, user can start training. As we can see, invoice number was found correctly, as well as invoice date. However, total would require some training. So we click on Grand Total label and IQBot picks the value up automatically. For payment terms, IQBot has found label, but not the value, so we mark the area where value is located. Subtotal was picked correctly. Now we train line items table extraction. First, we need to select the end of table indicator, which in our case is subtotal field. Then we check table column titles, description, quantity, and amount, and switch to Review screen. Here we can see that after training, all the fields were extracted correctly. We save the trained IQBot and ready to use it in processing. Now let us see how the newly trained IQBot will work with RPA bots to automate process end-to-end. First step is preparing invoices. RPA bot collects email attachments into one folder and another RPA bot uploads them into Cognitive IQBot. IQBot extracts data from invoices and after validation, saves it to CSV file. If some data fields don't pass validation, they will be reviewed by a human operator, and these corrections will be used as additional training data. Here is RPA Enterprise Client Interface, which is used to run RPA bots. The first bot we run collects email attachments and saves them. Next bot uploads invoices to IQBot. Then IQBot extracts data from the invoice, field by field, including line items, and saves it in structured format to CSV file. Then another RPA bot takes this structured data and uploads it to SAP. Bot logs into the system using credentials. Creates a new invoice record and fills out the fields with the data from CSV file. And after running internal checks, such as PO matching, we are ready to submit payment. Now let us see what happens with exceptions. In this example, invoice date field contains an extra dot, which needs to be removed. When user corrects and saves the document, The machine learning in IQBot leverages this corrected data for additional training. Now, in case of similar error, IQBot automatically suggests the correction. IQBot Advanced Analytics includes tracking of straight-through processing parameter, as well as graphical representation of training quality. As you may see on this chart, while IQBot keeps learning from processing more documents over time, it results in constant increase in straight-through processing. This chart shows the number of samples used for training a particular data fields. Tall green columns represent well-trained fields, which could be extracted with high confidence, while yellow and red fields require additional training. The same data represented in flat circles for one document allows us to create a 3D model for multiple documents, where each of them represented by a blue bubble surrounded by multiple green, yellow, and red bubbles data fields. Some fields could belong to more than one document, which allows cross-checking data from multiple documents in a single document set. For example, mortgage application package has many documents with the same applicant's name, address, and other information, which could be matched and validated automatically, increasing STP even further. You may find more information and request a product demo at www.automationanywhere.com.
Great. So just to give you a perspective, right? So essentially, if you look at it, what I was trying to show here is it's an IQ bot, which is the use case that you saw was basically on invoice processing. And if I were to really summarize the entire process, just let's go back to the previous slide only, please. So what it really does is, so you've got an email of an invoice, right? The bot identifies that there's an email which has come, right? And it's a PDF file or maybe a TIFF or a JPEG image. It downloads that. Using an IQ bot, it will extract the data. Now the question really arises: what sort of data are really of interest to you, right? Because obviously there are a lot of data which you don't need for processing of invoice. There are specific set of data. Now, had it been a typical manual effort, then you would really look at those fields and enter the data. But if it's a machine doing, it needs a lot of cognitive built into it, right? Now, that's the reason we call it as an IQ bot, cognitive bot. Now, what we have done is, in case of cognitive bot, there's a lot of training which has gone into this bot, and you would have seen in one instance where it talks about selecting the domain, right? So we have trained this bot universally for specific use cases. So, say for example, it's an invoice processing, right? So you select the domain as invoice. So there are a lot of self-learning which has already gone in. So the bot automatically understands that there are certain fields that are of utmost importance, such as invoice number, if it's a GST, subtotal, payment terms, so on and so forth, right? Similarly, if it's a use case of say for example mortgage loan application, then you need to look at the data such as PAN card, Aadhaar, and so on and so forth, right? And so on and so forth. So that's the reason why we select domain, because it really helps you to expedite the learning process. The second, what happens is, say for example, if there is a new thing, right? So you may have a very specific requirement which really is not, the bot is not really trained for. You have seen the training piece of it as well, right? You just move your cursor to the point which needs to be trained. So say for example, there is a field data which needs to be captured. So as I say, for example, a subtotal, which is a new thing which the bot is not trained for. You just say subtotal on the field side, move the cursor on the subtotal value, and the bot itself learns it. So there's a lot of self-learning, there's a lot of cognitive learning which goes in, right? And that's about it. That's, you do it for a couple of times, the bot learns it and takes it further. And then once all the data has been extracted, you have seen that moving into an Excel file, then there's an RPA which comes into a play. It automatically triggers, by the way, there's no human intervention. It captures all the fields data and start posting into SAP. Now again, posting into SAP, you define the login credential before, so there's no manual intervention. So the bots automatically goes into SAP, logs in with the password, opens the field of interest, and start entering the data and move further, right? So the entire process of invoice processing, which in most of the cases I know for sure, especially in India, are manually being done right now. This can be automated completely. The benefit that you have is there's no delay in processing the invoices. There is no revenue leakages, right? So there's no error there. So typically, once you have processed the invoice, you have paid, and when you do an end of the month reconciliation, you find there's a lot of gaps, right? So there's no, so in case of RPA, it's 100% accurate. If it's not accurate, it will give you an error, right? For you to have a look at it. It will not process something which the bot is not confident 100% of, right? So that's in summary on the invoice process. This is the third use case, and this must be close to a lot of you. This is a GSTN reconciliation, wherein typically what you'll see in subsequent in this video is you'll see there are two Excel files. One is basically the purchase only, and one is for the supplier only. There are certain reconciliation checks which is being done, which is so basically a counterparty taxpayer GSTN mismatch, invoice number mismatch, tax amount mismatch, and then what is the tax structure mismatch. So the bots will try to identify what are the mismatches based on the three this criteria which you have defined. By the way, you can define as many as you want, right? But in this video, this is how it would be. And then there is certain assumption. So anything which is more than 1% of INR 100, the bot will let it go. So that's a rule which is being defined. Can we have the video, please? So this is the bot running. You don't get hassled by the screen, or you see all those codings there. It's all drag and drop. On the left hand side, you see this column, and you just have to drag and drop. It's all very intuitive UI based. So you just drag it, and what you see is all the hard coded commands out there. Can we play the video, please? Okay. So this is the file. These are the two files. Now bot is trying to do the reconciliation, try to identify what are the mismatches on the parameter that has been laid down or defined, and you can change it, right? And look at the speed at which it can be done. The bottom left hand side, what you see is the is the window that you see small. That's basically indicating the bot is doing everything. So this is a mismatch what bot have find. All right. So this is essentially, as you would have seen, I don't know how much time would a manual effort would take to really reconcile, and when it runs in thousands of entry, so then it makes a hell lot of difference. Plus, the bots are available for you 24/7, right? They don't take coffee breaks, they don't take holidays, so it's practically available to you 24/7, 365 days. Just to share with you, we had deployed this bot last year for one of the leading airline in the country. The use case was really around identifying, the whole process was they realized they're losing a lot of GST credit because they have not been really able to reconcile on time to claim the credit. Using bot, right? Because they had all those pilots traveling to multiple locations, they had those hotel stays, they had food expenses, everything attracting GST, right? So they need to claim those credits. And obviously, with the timelines, with the deadlines that they had, typically they used to really not really look at some of the lower entries, right? They used to pick up the larger ticket size and go about the same. Using bots, what they realized is they were able to pluck 5 to 10% of the GST credit, which otherwise would not have been claimed. So if you look at it, the first year itself, the bot paid for it. So you were able to get bot salary paid from the GST credit that you were able to claim. So that's on GST credit. I have one more video. But just
Yashpalji,
Haji.
Yashpalji, were there any major hindrances or something that I mean the implementation was outright successful and can now be done on a commercial level, or how's it?
Which implementation you're referring to, Kabraji?
This bot for GST.
So okay, so GST bots. In fact, we have a lot of partners who have built this bot, pre-built this bot, right? In fact, we have a lot of partners who have built bot for risk, for compliance. In fact, we have one of the partner building a bot for the SFIO, right? To really understand, to detect the early warning signals of fraud and so forth. Yeah. So these are all bots which are available pre-built, right? However, in case if you want to build a bot specifically for a particular requirement, you can build it. As I said, right, it's very easy to build a bot.
It's like an extended macro.
Absolutely. So it's jokingly we call it as RPA is like steroid on macros. Macros on steroids. Sorry.
Superb,
Right?
superb,
So,
absolutely.
absolutely. Yeah. So that's where it is. I have one more video which basically talks about using IQbot. I'm just conscious of time. If you want, we can skip this and open for question and answer, because I think I have time till 6:30.
Right. No, please go ahead.
Otherwise,
No, you can see the video, I think, and then we'll
all
take
right.
the question.
All right. Okay. So can we have the next video, please?
Insurance companies pay out massive amounts of money in fraudulent claims, totaling over $80 billion paid out annually. Fraudulent claims account for 5 to 10% of all insurance claim costs. Automation Anywhere reduces false claims in the following ways. It automatically extracts claim data to shorten claim handling times. It isolates and triages potential fraudulent claims for further analysis. It improves customer satisfaction by reducing overall claim processing times and lowering costs. And finally, it provides automated analytics and insights about claims to help you make better decisions. The process starts with the submission and extraction of basic claim information. This may come from an email or other source during the first notice of loss. The claim data is then processed through fraud detection, triaged, and assigned to a team for further investigation. Or it can be sent to a claims adjuster for a normal adjudication and payment if no signs of risk are present. The policyholder starts the claims process by submitting a claim via email or other channels. This claim information is then automatically processed using a series of Automation Anywhere RPA and IQbot task bots. As emails arrive, the claim forms data is extracted and placed into the claim processing queue. The IQbot extracts the claim data using machine learning and creates a CSV file from the data. This data includes information such as name, address, date, policy number, telephone number, email address, date and time of incident, and anything else that is required to process the claim. The claim is next passed to a bot that examines the claim data for signs of possible fraud. This bot uses cognitive analytics to predict the likelihood that the claim is fraudulent. Claims that are determined to have a high probability of fraud are triaged into a special queue for analysis by experts in this special investigation unit. To ensure those claims are evaluated quickly, the Automation Anywhere system generates a notification to the SIU that an investigation and follow-up is needed. An additional benefit of the Automation Anywhere system is that claim analytics and reporting can easily be generated around the claim process to help managers optimize operational efficiency and effectiveness. For example, Bot Insight takes business insights to the next level with transparent dashboards to monitor claims processed, fraud counts, processing time, and anything else needed to assess the health of the operations. Automation Anywhere Enterprise RPA and RQ Bot reduces claim processing costs, detects fraud with AI models, increases customer satisfaction with quick end-to-end automation, and provides insight into claim processing trends via analytics. For more information, go to automationanywhere.com.
Can we have the next slide, please? So you have gone back. So next slide, yeah. All right. So so this basically talks about use of automation in finance. Some of the things I'm sure I don't want to repeat it. It's all there. I'm sure in last 45 minutes or so that we have discussed, these are some of the tangible benefits that you could really rely on leveraging RPA. Can we look at next slide, please? These are some of the, as I said, summarizing some of the tangible benefit using RPA. You achieve business resiliency, labor optimization, which really leads to cost optimization, faster cycle times. You're able to report your file claims faster, customer experience, improve customer experience, client satisfaction, improve employee productivity. The employees are happy because they don't really have to worry about doing manual jobs. They might as well be leveraged to use a lot of productive stuff. And as I said, compliance and security, right? It's a digital footprint that really matters. And every transaction or every task that's completed, you have a digital footprint to really claw back what's right and what was wrong in the transaction. Can we have the next slide, please? So what does it take? Three fundamental things, right? The first is the intent, right? And this is very important, right? You may have best of the technology in the world, and that's why I started with human technology collaboration. We might have best of the technology available in the world, but unless you have the intent to really consume those technology, it's not gonna serve any purpose. So intent is a one big bold statement. So you need to have an intent to start. We obviously have technology, and it's fast evolving. About 2 or 3 years back, we talked about RPA, then we talked about cognitive bots, and then now we're talking about discovery bots, right? So it's fast evolving to enhance customer satisfaction, improve customer experience, and then obviously you should have people to consume it, right? You should have your customers who can really consume those services, right? Can we go to the next slide, please? The future, as we see, the finance factory, what we really see is, we are seeing a lot more company really looking at, automating their finance processes. A lot of companies, large conglomerates, either they are based out of India or abroad. If it's outside, then they are bringing it in India. They are starting up their shared services practice, which essentially means that they're consolidating all their finance and accounting under one umbrella of shared services, and which is getting automated, right? So the way we see it, transaction will be touchless as automation will reach deeper into finance operations. The role of finance with operations largely automated, finance will really double down on business insight and services, right? So while all the repetitive, mundane tasks will be handled by the bots, the finance will really give a lot of suggestions, creative thing to the businesses of, to how to grow the businesses and how to really optimize, business process and so on and so forth, right? Finance cycle, it really improves the finance cycles. So it improves cash flow and operating model. Once you are able to automate your backend, obviously there are new areas, new service delivery models which will emerge, right? So look at it this way: you have companies opening shared services. We also have a lot of large organizations running it as a BPO to their customers. So say, for example, if one of you wants to start a BPO, which essentially means that you want to start a shared services, and offer it as a services to a lot of your customers. So just imagine what you could do using the same set of people, right? You can really touch more and more customers, bring a lot of optimization in your in your businesses, right? And that's something which we see happening in the near future. Can we look at the next slide? So very simple for some of you who are a tech geek, either you can reach out to me, or these are very simple thing. We have free community editions being made available to all the users. It's the same. It's just that it's not an enterprise license, but for a single use, a single user can use it. There are free training resources available on the Automation Anywhere university website, which really helps you to start and scale up. You can either call me, and my coordinates are there with the team, in case if you or any of your customer wants to embark on this digital transformation, and then you can pretty much start with your bot store and so on and so forth, right? So that's, I think, that's pretty much what I have. I think I just have one summary. So can we move it to the next slide? Yeah. So that's where it is. I think that's the end of my presentation. I hope I was able to give you some insight on the capability of this tool, and what it can really bring on table for the team on the call. Thank you so much. Questions, if you have any.
Thank you, Yashpalji. Let's take up some questions, and it was indeed a very useful session with live demonstration of bots. That is what I had even said before this conference. We would be doing that, and thank you for creating that for us.
My pleasure.
And friends, as he said, GST compliance MCAs are just small little things we can even do. So as we are doing also using bots, we trying to set up the money trail function. And as he mentioned, bots are now also working. They're working for the SFIOs and all of that. The fraud functions can really be very, very effectively evaluated using bots. And believe me, he said the right thing. They don't go on leave, they don't go on coffee breaks, and they work 24/7. All you need is your infrastructure to just stand up and work. So amazing, Yashpalji, really. Before we could go ahead, I'll take up some questions.
Sure.
Can Vivek Parmaji has asked a question? Can AA? I think AA must be
Automation Anywhere. Automation.
Automation.
Yeah.
Have some agreement with ICI to have some course on AA for ICI. We'll figure that out, Vivek ji. But what you could do is, yeah, we are anyways figuring that out, and there are some courses, and as you said, there's a university that these people also run, so you could take the best use of it. How it impacts audit procedures with the client when the client implements RPA is another question that is asked. Do you have any take on that, Yashpalji?
Yeah, so sorry, could you repeat that question for me? How does it impact
the audit procedures once RPA has been implemented?
So essentially, if you look at it, yeah. Okay. So essentially, what if you look at the entire session that I was talking about, what it essentially, so the whole idea is, see, it's not a bot who will decide on behalf of human being, right? What it really does is, right, it sort of automates the effort, which is very repetitive in nature, right? And I'm sure if all of you can really sit back and think how much of time you really spend without really thinking about it, right? It's just about it's as simple as you logging into email, you look at the email and you do forward or whatever. It's as good as that, right? Now that's something which bot can do, and trust me, this constitutes to more than 60 to 70% of our effort, right? Now this is something which bots can really pick it up for you, so that you can do what you really do best, right, in terms of giving a lot of insights to your client. As far as the impact to the customer is concerned, as I said, there's not much technology effort which is required, because it really works on the presentation layer of the application. So you don't really do some hard coding, right, to really get the bots running. Number two, what we have also done is last year we announced our bots to be made available on cloud as well. So you don't even need an infrastructure today. So be my guest. You have bots available on the cloud, and you just once you subscribe to it, you get a URL, you log in with your credential, and there you go. The bots are up there for you, running on the cloud.
So on this, there's another question. What is a typical ROI in a typical RPA project? So any return on investment, real case, Deepak Chopra has asked that question.
So generally, well, it would vary from so it would vary from function to function. It would vary from the cost structure that each company has. But what generally we have seen is any RPA project that you deploy, the payback period is between 8 to 12 months. So it pays back, right? So once that's been done, so if you look at it from an RPA standpoint, there are two fundamental costs, right? One is the subscription fee, which is the Automation Anywhere platform, and there is a one-time implementation cost. Now, once you have built the bot, right? So that's, and you run it for a year, it's automatically taken care. So next year you don't have to pay for the implementation; it's just a subscription which goes on, right? So next year onwards will be much faster.
Right. We've got some more questions. Do you have any bots which are available for? How does it check fraudulent emails? Shrikantji has asked a question. What does it actually do if you have to check fraudulent emails? And do you have any bots? Are there bots available for invoicing as well and follow-ups?
So so two things, right? So as I said again, so these bots are pretty much any function which is sort of repetitive in nature, follows simple logic. You can build a bot for that, right? Number one. Number two, what we also have is we have a bot store available, right? And there are a lot of pre-built bots which are available there. So if you, I would encourage you to visit it's automationanywhere.com/bot store. And there are a lot of pre-built bots. So you can go look at what are the bots available. There are a few bots on the fraudulent detection as well. You can download and start consuming from day one. So these are all the bots which has been built based on the expertise that our partner ecosystem has bought in, and using our technology, they have built those bots.
There's a very good question. Technology is enabler, and it is doing all the good things. But if trained properly, can these bots really be a devil? Can they increase the chances of frauds, systematic frauds and errors in the system?
So as I said, right, they don't have brains. They are under human command, right? Now, if somebody had to really do some fraud, if say for example somebody train a bot or design a bot in such way to do a fraud, then obviously, as I said, it doesn't have intelligence.
True.
So yes.
Tejas Vasan asked the question. I work in digital transformation as a SAP consultant and a CA, and I've witnessed successful IQ bot for vendor invoice posting in SAP. About one third of our invoices are posted. But can cash flow forecast be a good case for robotics? Can it be done using bots?
Yes. In fact, that was one of the use case which I've listed on my typical finance use cases. So it can be. We have seen a lot of use cases around treasury as well, right? So you have a lot of companies having surplus cash, so they need to roll it back in the subsequent and which is on a daily basis, right? So there are bots which has been built to really give you a lot of alerts and see what are the right thing for you to do, because a human being can only see so much, right? Can only do so much. But if you design a bot to say, the bot needs to go in multiple sites and extract those data and give some insights as to what should be the right investment, yes, it can be done.
Fantastic. Kunal Sachanji has asked, how does AA differs from Blue Prism? I don't know what is Blue Prism, but if
Blue Prism is our competition. They are very respective. They are a very respective competition.
Kunal, good one.
So they are one of our competition, and I think so. If you look at it, where we essentially differ, and this is more of a sales pitch, right? But then if you see where we differ is, we have something called the. नहीं करना है. So okay, fair. So maybe you can give my contact. I can share with him.
Yeah, of course. He'll reach out to you.
How do we differentiate?
True, absolutely. Yeah, and therefore you are here, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think rest all. What is normally cost to client ratio while comparing? See, so most of these are related to costing and all of this. Turnover of 50 lakhs. Rajesh Patil ji has asked a good question about medium-sized firms. How can they invest in these bots and all? But I would request all of you to please, instead of having this on this platform, maybe you can reach on one-to-one. Yashpal ji is available, and he'll be more than happy to answer these questions. Aparna Rao has mentioned, I don't know what does she mean by this, but if she can clarify, some citizen development programs that she's talking about using. I don't know what is that, but what do you really mean, Aparnaji? Because a very high level concept.
Yeah. So that's a very good point, and in fact, that's something which is the which we talk about it quite often. So I think so good. So all the effort that our marketing team has been doing, that has reached somewhere, right? So essentially,
Oh,
what we really mean by citizen automation is, see, you build a bot, right? So say for example, you build a bot for a invoice processing, like I mentioned earlier, and that's what I talked about discovery bot. Unless and until you are able to democratize it, right? Unless and until more and more departments start consuming those bots, you will not see it, flying with colors, right? So what we really mean by citizen bot is the bots being, democratized, consumed by a lot of other business function, and obviously there are a lot of methods to it. There are a lot of strategy around it, and so on and so forth, right? So that's what it mean by citizen automation. It's consumption by mass within an organization.
oh, superb. Oh, what a concept, yeah. Hitesh, that's the last question I'll take. Hitesh Sajdaviya is asked, he's working on UiPath, and
Yeah.
there are some codes like VB.NET which are required while defining the logics in the sequence of bot. How to bridge the gap, as these are essentially finance profession, not IT person. So I think you mentioned in the screen, right? These are hard coded. You
Yeah.
don't have to see the code. You have to see that
Correct.
column.
Absolutely.
Keep
Absolutely. Drag and drop. Yeah. So we have more
drag.
than we have more than 640 predefined steps, right? On the left hand side, as you would have seen. What you really need to do, it's like a flow chart, right? So you just so we recently announced our new product, which is A2019, and the whole idea was to build a bot in 3 steps. So a lot of innovation has gone in. The idea is you just drag those commands onto the right hand side, and it takes care of the rest of the thing. So we have tried to simplify it.
Superb. I think you mentioned about the GST reconciliation, and when we talk about GST, we have our in-house guru with us, the GST expert, CM Manish Gadia, our regional council member, who has also joined us in this conference. Before I
Sure.
would invite Manish Bhai for his remarks on this GST and this amazing thing that I had to display on this technology conference, I would request first if Manish Bhai, we could finish a word of thanks from Rishabh, and then I would invite you for your opening remark for the remarks and as well as introduction of the next speaker. Yeah, Manish Bhai.
Thank you, Arpit, for giving me this opportunity. And this program, what I have seen is structured so well. Really speaking, I don't know about anything about technology, but one thing I know is that technology is the future, and unless you change and you adopt a new technology, artificial intelligence, and all these things, then you will be nowhere in coming future. So this is the thing, and I'm seeing a number of participants, approximately 350 participants are attending at present this webinar on this technology. That shows that all chartered accountants are now interested in this kind of learning, and this will be the future of our generation and future of profession. So really a very well structured program, I can say, and really Yashpal ji have covered this in great detail and in a simplistic language. So the person like me who do not understand anything about technology understood something what you said. So it's really a great help, and you explained about bot and various other things. So really good, and good work, Arpit. Over
Thank
to
you,
you.
Manish Bhai. I will request Rishabh to quickly give a well-deserved word of thanks for this session once again. Uh,
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. So, Mr. Yashpal, on behalf of WRC and all the attendees that are present in this session, I would like to extend a very heartfelt vote of thanks to you for giving valuable insights into robotic process automation, into IQ bot training, and quantifying their benefits as well. I think it is an understatement to state that your session is relevant now more than it was ever, and how practically you have explained, elucidated, shown us videos. And I think all the attendees today have expanded their horizons about what they were really thinking about digital transformation. So on behalf of WRC, again, I would like to thank you for this brilliant session. Thank you, Mr. Negi.
Thank you so much, and pleasure is all mine. Please reach out to me. The agency has my number, so happy to help you
Sure.
in whichever. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Appreciate. Thank
Sure,
you.
Yashpalji.
Thank you.
Friends, now moving on, after the bots, after the real demonstration, and one of the best things that could have happened in technology conferences when we've not just seen video, but we have also heard the audio. So thank you, Mishra ji, and thank you, Yashpalji, for setting that up, because we've been struggling in this GoTo webinar to even see the video and hear an audio on that. A different window has opened up, so that is a technology as it evolves. Now moving on, we've got a friend, a speaker right from Seattle, the heart of the software industry in USA. We've got a speaker from Amazon, and as you can see, it's absolutely cold there, and it's 3:30 a.m. in the morning there. So he's joined us from there, Mr. Aditya Bangat. Welcome, Aditya, in this conference of chartered accountants, wherein an engineer is now invited and is being put. We say we never sleep, and we've made you also not to sleep this day today. I would request Manish Bhai to please give him a warm welcome from India.
So first of all, Arpit, I'll hats off to the dedication of Mr. Aditya Bangat, that he is training us, giving us a training on technology at 3:30 a.m. from US. So it's a technology only can make it possible that he's sitting in US and training us and on this technology. So really a great job, and thank you, Aditya ji, for accepting our invitation. And what I can say is that nowadays, as a chartered accountant, what is important for us is the data, data, and data. So these are the only important thing for us, not for now, but since ages we are playing with the data. But how to analyze the data is really, really, really very important. And that what we are expecting, and we want to hear that how to harness the exponential power of the data analysis and how we can play with that data, and how we can take benefit. That's what we are going to look and hear from you. So thank you, Aditya ji. First of all, I should say thanks for joining us, guiding us at 3:30 a.m. from US. So welcome to India. Welcome to ICI.
Yeah, thank you, Manish, and thank you, Arpit, Manish ji and Arpit ji. So, thank you for acknowledging that this has been a late night for me, but it is actually, so it's Saturday early morning, or you can say Friday late night. So, the weekend has just started for me, and usually, I mean, on a normal Friday late night, I'm stuck in the front of a laptop. The only difference is instead of GoTo meeting, it is a Netflix or Amazon Prime. So, no difference for me in that way. But yeah, thank you for the invite. Thank you for the opportunity provided by DAAB, WIFC, and RPG for speaking in front of this group of chartered accountants. I have also always believed that there's this fusion of between technology and other industries, which have kind of brought different innovations. So this is really a great initiative, exchanging ideas with technology. So if you take few examples. I mean, transportation when it fused with technology, Uber came into picture. When hoteling fused with technology, Airbnb came into picture. Retailing when it fused with technology, Amazon, everyone knows about it. So yeah, thank you for the invite. Pleasure is all mine. And this is the closest I've been to CA. So I actually aspired to be a CA when I was in 10th class. For my 11th class, I took the subject of commerce and maths. That is a requirement for chartered accountant. But my dad was an engineer, and he always wanted mera beta engineer banega kind of thing. So when I told him that I have taken commerce, he went to the school the next day without my knowledge, and he changed the subject to math science, and then it was about that. And but I love engineering. I breathe engineering day and out, and I'm very excited about working at Amazon, and Amazon being a leader in the technology. So it always gives me a lot of, it always keeps me at the edge of technology, and that really keeps me going, keeps me motivated all the time. So yeah, that is about it. Uh, so we can jump right. We have a lot of ground to cover in machine learning and big data space. So we can jump right into the presentation if we don't have anything else.
Yes, Aditya ji, please go ahead. We can see your screen now, and I invite you to please share your insights on what is happening at Amazon using machine learning and everything that we've heard about the social dilemma. How far and how you think it's critical for us, and how, as a chartered accountant, when we are handling so much of data, how should we act responsibly to ensure that these fine aspects of finance of clients and corporates that we handle are in safe hands and we use it responsibly. May I request you to please put this on a slideshow mode so that we can see the screen much effectively.
Can you see it now?
One sec, I think we just lost it. But you're back, but it's not in the slideshow mode. Yeah, you are there. Perfect.
Awesome.
All right. What are you? We are there in the background. If you need any assistance, we are just a shout away.
Yeah, sure. All right. So data, as we all know, and as it has been very widely said, that it is the new oil, and it really is the new oil. If you think about it, every big corporate and small startups, they are kind of looking for insightful data uh, uh, to make informed decisions and to make sure that they are getting what they need. So we'll look about this data aspect more in detail when we deep dive into machine learning. So how the data is used in machine learning. So here's the agenda. So we'll start with what is machine learning, the basic concepts of it, its use cases, few basic one that we, that we use in our daily routine as the music recommendation, the online marketing, online shopping, and all those things. And then we'll deep dive into big data. So what is big data? It is one of the hottest term which is used in this industry, and is it really big, or is it really that hot to be talked about? So what is that? We'll try to demystify that. Then a little bit about data visualization, and this is the space where I think some quick wins can be made by in any of the people from any of the fields. So you don't have to be a very tech savvy analyst or something like that to get onboarded to these tools, because these companies are making these tools much and much easier for the end user and not just an engineer or a technical person. So if time permits, I'll try to do a demo of one of the tool to help you understand that how this the data visualization is all we also call it business intelligence, how these tools can help you analyze the data in a better way, and what kind of tools are available, free tools, paid tools, and the license versions ones, and all. Then we'll talk about cloud computing. Before talking about cloud computing, I'll talk about the data laws that are coming into the picture. So I don't know how many of you have heard about GDPR, but this is the regulations which are initiated by EU in 2018 after the Cambridge Analytica outbreak, and it is kind of a it is kind of a stepping stone for all the companies who handle data, that how the data should be leveraged. If you are collecting data from users, how that data should be leveraged and what rights the user have. So if in Europe you're doing a startup, you have to be GDPR compliant, and there are other countries also are following the trend. Like so for example, Amazon is a US company, but it still tries to be a GDPR compliant one. And then we'll talk about cloud computing. So what is AWS and Azure and GCP? So AWS is an offering by Amazon, which is it's a bunch of services, cloud services, which is powered by Amazon. Azure is a similar service provided by Microsoft. GCP is for Google, and there are other services as well. So we'll talk a little bit about what is cloud computing and how it is changing the scenarios of startups and all. So what I'll start is in the machine learning. So I'll try to help you understand what machine learning is. We'll try to demystify it and try to make it more readable or more understandable instead of having you look at the more complex concept of it. So machine learning is the study of computer algorithms that allow computer programs to automatically improve through experience. So this is from Tom Michel, is a known name in machine learning space. So it's a heavy loaded statement, but if you read the statement, I mean, if you notice few keywords, which we'll deep dive into. So it's a study of computer algorithms that the computer program automatically improve through experience. So through experience, these are the algorithms which tend to improve through experience. When we say experience is a data. So huge amount of data, that means huge amount of experience in the machine learning space. Okay, let's understand what is a model. So I'll try to make it very easy. We'll use 10th class, basic 10th class mathematics to help you understand this. So when we talk about machine learning, we talk about model. So what is a model? So model is you can treat model as a prediction engine in which you'll provide some inputs and you'll expect some output from it. So all the magic of machine learning happens within a model. So I'll try to explain with a simple example, which is, let's say I want to predict the weight of a person given the height of that person. So if a person is 5 feet height, I just want to predict what should be the weight of that person. So very simple. So on the x-axis, we'll take this height, and on the y-axis, we'll take the weight, height in centimeters and weight in kgs. And I'll collect few data points and plot those data points here. So I have, say, data points from 10 or 15 people of what is their height and what is their weight. So that is my experience that I have with those data points. So I have plotted these data points. So if you look at it, so someone who is 110 centimeter weighs about 10 kgs. Someone who is 150 centimeter weighs about 40 kgs. Someone who is around 180 centimeters weighs about 60 kgs, and it goes on. And you can easily see a trend. So as the height is increasing, the weight is also increasing. So what machine learning does is it will use these data points to kind of predict the future future data points which will come with an unknown weight. So it will try to build a model using these data points which can predict the height, predict the weight given the height of a person. How would it do it? It uses an ML algorithm. So when I talk about ML algorithms, so if you remember from the last screen, we talked about computer algorithms. So ML algorithms are the algorithms which help you build those models. So one of the famous algorithm is deep learning, which is very hot right now. Then there are others as well, like neural networks and logistic regression. We'll not deep dive into it. That is not part of or scope of this presentation, and that is too technical. We don't want to go too much into technical. But let's say we use some algorithm and try to build that model. So how would we build this model? So as you can see that all these data points, they cannot be connected with a single line, and that is the real world. You cannot have a clear trend of something. It's always haphazard. So this ML algorithm will help me build a line which is closest to all these data points. So for example, the red line that you see, so that you can say is closest to all these data points and that becomes our model. So in mathematical terms, what is our model? So model is y is equal to mx plus c. Again, simple 10th class mathematics. So y is the weight, m is the slope of this line, and c is the constant, which is this value. So if you remember for this function, then it is easy for you to understand machine learning and the models. So once I build this model, so once I build this model, now I know that any data point or any x I have, so my m and c are now created using these 10 or 15 data points and using the ML algorithm. So the only unknown thing is now x. So whenever you provide x to this equation, it will predict a value of y. So now say you provide x as something like 130 centimeter. So you can see from this model, so 130 centimeter maps to around 30 kgs. So now you have a model which can predict the weight based on the height. If you have a height of say 210 centimeters somewhere here, so you'll end up with a weight of say 80 kgs, something of that kind. So now we have the model. My model is y is equal to mx plus c, and my height is x, my weight is y. You provide x into the input and you get y as the output. So if you think about it, is height the only factor which can decide the weight? And the answer is clearly no. A person who is more aged might have the same height, but his weight will be a little lower. And there can be other cases, someone with a disease or someone with different with a different geography, and there can be others as well. So here we say that we are only optimizing it for one variable, which is height. So only one variable, which is height, is we are taking to help us predict the weight of a person. We can have other variables as well, and that's where the complexity comes into picture. So okay, before going there, so what is learning in machine learning? So we saw that we only worked with 10 or 15 data points, and it helped me create a model out of it. So let's say I extend these data points. Now I have a more experienced data or more solid data, and from 10 data points to 100 data points. So I'll run this ML algorithm on the 100 data points, and it will create this line, which is a more precise line. So my models are getting more precise. The values of M and C will be more precise and will be more accurate because I have more data points. And then you extend it to say 1 million data points, it would be more accurate. So that's why if you again look at that statement of machine learning, so it improves by experience. So if you add more data, the ML algorithm will better optimize your models and will give you a better prediction. So that is the learning part of it. And machine, we all know all of this is done in machine. Yeah, so coming back to the variables, so we right now have only one variable, which is used for predicting. But now let's say we add another variable, which is age. So age, just consider this as an z-axis. So we have x-axis, y-axis, and z-axis. So now we have another variable into the picture, which is helping us decide the weight of a person. Now again, I can plot some data points here, and the ML algorithm will help me draw a line, which the equation of that line will be y equal to, now we have z also, so m1x, m2x plus c. So as we have more variables, the m1, m2, m3, and it extends to mn. And in real world scenarios, that is what happens. So think about it. Now this is a 3D graph, and it can be represented in a PowerPoint presentation. But what if I have another dimension? Say I have demographics, or say I have geography or the country. There's no way I can draw this here, because I mean, human capabilities only provide them to visualize 3D data. They cannot visualize 4D or any other dimension data. So that's where machine learning come into picture, and that's where it solves that complexity. So we saw height as a variable, we saw age as a variable. We can have other variables as well, like gender is for sure a variable. Male and female have different heights. Geography is definitely a factor. So some countries people are more heighted, and some countries they are less heighted. Race and ethnicity, so some particular race or particular ethnicity can be more heighted than the others, and the medical conditions and other demographics. So that's how our model becomes now y equal to m1x, m2x, m3x, where x1, x2, x3 is the height, age, gender, etc. And m1, m2, m3, we call them weights, and the ML algorithm helps us define those weights. So more the data, more the experience, better or more optimize the weights and more optimize the model. So yeah, so this is a high brief about machine learning. So this will set our base to kind of deep dive into the rest of the session and understand the use cases which are there in the real world. So let's start one by one. So everyone must be aware of YouTube or Netflix or Amazon Prime or any other streaming services. So all these services use machine learning. You might have already known about it, but let me give you some perspective of how that works. So let's take an example of YouTube, where you listen a song and it quickly recommends you another song. So what it does at the back end, it has a data of million users, and it knows the choices of those users. It knows the behavior of those users. It creates kind of a profile of that user, that this user kind of hears these songs, and based on that, he decides that if a new user comes in who has a similar profile than an older user, which they already have in their database, they will try to predict that what would be his liking based on the other users, other similar users in their data. So for example, if you are a user and you are a user which heavily uses YouTube, and you hear Rafi song, you hear Mukesh song a lot, and also you hear Kishore Das songs. Now imagine so it has created a profile with your likings of what kind of songs you're hearing, and it has done it for millions. Now say another user comes into picture. He's a new user. He just started listening to Rafi song, and now the ML algorithm will run through its models and kind of predict, okay, this folk is liking Rafi song. We have a prediction for the folks who have already listened to Rafi songs. So he might like a Mukesh song, or he might like a Kishore Das songs, and he will accordingly rank those songs that which one is most probable for him to hear. It's a Rafi song or a Kishoda song based on, again, the data, the past data, and then recommend you the song. And now everything happens in milliseconds. You won't notice all of this is happening in the background. And again, you hear a Mukesh song, then definitely he'll show you a Kishoda song because you haven't heard a Kishoda song, and that is the ideal choice with whatever I'm explaining right now with the data point. Now, let's say you after Ravi, Mukesh, and Kishoda, you also heard Arijit Singh song, and now the ML algorithm will optimize or run its machine learning algorithm to understand, okay, a person who likes these old singers and also like Arijit Singh might also be interested in a new song, which it will decide based on your new choices or other users' new choices. So that is how these recommendations works in the music streaming platform. Even for the video streaming platform, it kind of works in the same way. So it uses the past data to kind of predict which kind of movie you would like, and not just the past data, it will also look at the trends of which movie is trending, and then check which you based on your profile or your latest viewing behavior, that which is the most recommended, which should be the most recommended movie or series for you. And that's what you see on Netflix. So if you notice the home page of Netflix or Amazon Prime, it's different for everybody. So I'm in US. If I open Netflix, it is intelligent enough to show me on the home page an Indian series, because I like Indian series. I watch a lot of Indian series. So even if it's a Netflix US service that I subscribe to, but it is intelligent enough to understand that I'm looking at more Indian series, and that's how it will show an Indian series on my homepage. My American counterpart, he might have a totally different recommendation on his homepage. So the homepage are also optimized based on the machine learning platform, machine learning algorithm. Similarly, digital ads. So mostly it is used in social media, and you can see them everywhere. So most of the time, you must have noticed you are searching for something, a car, and then you start looking at those ads of car in Facebook, Twitter, and everywhere. So that also does a lot of machine learning. So it whenever you are searching for that particular thing, so it kind of records that in its cookies, and then build models over it and see that, okay, so people searching for these keywords are interested in these particular advertisements or these particular products, and then it has contract with the product man. For example, it has contract, or for example, Honda and Hyundai has given Facebook to show the targeted users. By targeted users, I mean the users who have a profile which is searching for a car or something like that, and show them advertisements. So then they do all the negotiation between Hyundai and Honda to predict which of the advertisement is the user is most probable to click, and which one is paying them more. So trade-off between these two things, and all of this is happening in milliseconds. Again, you keep scrolling your Facebook page, and you keep seeing those advertisements coming to you. So if you compare this with the older world, it's not very old world. I mean, just go a decade back when we have TV advertisement. So if you see it in that way, it is so much optimized. So TV or advertisement, someone shoot that advertisement, and so for example, an advertisement of toothpaste, if it is showing on TV, it is showing across the country, whoever is watching that channel, whatsoever his likings are, irrespective of his likings. And so much money is wasted. Wasted in the sense that a lot of users or customers are viewing that ad who don't want to buy a toothpaste or who has nothing to do with a toothpaste, but still they are watching that advertisement. So that kind of money is wastage. And in the digital world, that is more optimized, because only if you're searching for toothpaste, or only these social media platform understands that you have a liking for toothpaste, only then it will show you the toothpaste ad. So the advertisement which I'm showing to, say, 100 people, I just need to show it to 20 people. Because of machine learning, I can do that and be more effective and cost efficient. Okay, next is product recommendations. So this is interesting. So everyone must have an e-commerce platform account, and you must be shopping on e-commerce. So you must have seen recommendations of product. So that is also machine learning. So when you buy a table, you will see a recommendation that, hey, you purchased a table, you can also buy a chair. So how does that happen? So if you let's make an analogy of the real world with machine learning. So for example, a woman, he goes to a sari shop, and he tells the shopkeeper that I want a sari for a wedding which is going to happen in winter. or some month, which is in winters. So that shopkeeper will run the model, his mental model, to identify that what kind of saris that are women liking for marriage. So he has two variables, marriage and winter. So he'll kind of not optimize, but run through his mental model to understand, okay, based on experience, that is his own data experience, that these women who attends a marriage in winter like these kind of saris. So he'll start showing you those saris. And as you give him more feedback or more variables, like you say, I want a red sari. So again, he runs his mental model and then understand that, okay, woman with who has a liking of red sari, marriage and winter, and then he starts showing you those saris. So you might like this, you might like that, and then you will give him more feedback, like I want a sari with a certain border, and then he'll again run that mental model. So that's how things work in e-commerce platform as well. Machine learning works in e-commerce platform for product recommendation. So when you have purchased a table, the model runs and understand from its past data that, okay, people who are purchased, so there's no one who is writing a program that if a person is purchasing table, show him the chair. There's no one doing that. It's all machines that is handling that, and based on the data. So it runs at models and understand, okay, this person has purchased a table, let's show him a chair. That is a more my machine learning models are saying that is he's more predictive of purchasing a chair after purchasing a table. So yeah, that's how product recommendation work. And coming to real estate price predictions. So I'm not very much aware of India. I know housing.com is one of the startup which does this real estate thing, but this particular concept is very famous in US. So in US, when we purchase a house, you have to bid for that house. If the demand and supply is so demand is high and supply is low, you actually that market is very transparent. Multiple people bid on the house, and whoever the buyer selects as a bidder, he kind of selects him, and then he becomes a seller. So yeah, so Zillow is one of the famous website, and Redfin is another one, and both of them runs heavily on machine learning. So all of the core business is machine learning. So what do these websites do is they make a prediction of what should be the price of the houses, and these predictions are very, very accurate. So if you go to Zillow or Redfin.com, they kind of show the same prediction, and uh, that gives you an impression that how these machine learning algorithms have evolved and become mature, that two different companies are giving you the same prediction. And the prediction that they gave is based on your the area where you live, the region, the number of houses with the same square footage, and the same number of bedrooms and bathrooms and other variables, how much price those houses were sold in the recent time, and based on that it keeps refreshing the prices of your house. So if I want to go and purchase a house, Zillow and Redfin is the one-stop shop for me, and bid for that house. These two are the one-stop shop for me to understand the price of that house. So it's all transparent, and it's all very consumable and very real. I mean, your bidding will happen around that price only. So that's how it has helped a lot in doing real estate predictions. Medical diagnosis also. So there are certain things which cannot be proven scientifically, and might take a lot of time to be proven scientifically or root caused scientifically. So that's where machine learning comes to the rescue. It can find some patterns and some behavior where it can even if the scientific justification is not there, but it can say, okay, a person with these symptoms or these habits is more predictive of developing a disease of this kind. So say for example, cancer. So as far as I know, there's no real solution for cancer and no real root cause for cancer as long as I know, or as much as I know. But if we know that, if we have the rich data of the patients who are infected by that disease, we can make predictions that what kind of behavior of a person or what kind of habits of a person is leading him to uh, to to having been detected cancer or being cancerous. But unfortunately, we don't have data. I mean, no one tracks your daily eating habits and all those things. But the data is there to a certain level, but not to the level that we can help understand what that disease is doing. But in other cases, that it is really helping. And yeah, so medical diagnosis is one place which machine learning plays a vital role in. So other use cases are the virtual assistants. So these are really picking up very fast across the globe. Two of the examples I've shown is Amazon Alexa and Google Home. So these also learn through your data, learn their accent, learns your way of speaking, and then optimizes itself. Not just for you, but also for the whole customer base. So for example, so let's say these devices only understands English, but English is spoken in multiple accents. I mean, not just in US, in Europe, as you move to different countries, you'll see that English, they have different accents of English. Chinese people have different accents. Within India, we have different accents of English. If you go to different regions, you'll see people speaking in different, their own native accents. Now, when you bring Alexa home and you ask Alexa, hey Alexa, what's the weather today, with your own accent, it might not understand it at the first time. There might be a possibility he might give you a wrong response. But you'll notice that after you talk a lot with Alexa, and after maybe say a few days or a month, it will be more mature to understand your accent and your way of speaking, and will give you a more accurate answer for the same question that you asked the first day. So that's how it optimizes itself, and that's why we call it learning. It keeps learning itself from you. The second example I've shown is again very famous among the young people, which is Snapchat filters. So this is where the image recognition comes into picture. So in the left side, you see a person who is in. So the algorithm kind of he knows the pattern of a face, how a face looks based on whatever data he has. So it maps that pattern on a new face that it finds and tries to understand where are the eyes, where is the nose, where's the mouth, and the whole structure of the face. So that's how on the left side you can see that that's how it kinds of build a structure of that face, and now it knows every bit of your face, that what is the eyebrow, what is the ears, what is the eyes, what is nose, mouth, and everything. And once it knows about it, it can play around it. So if you apply some filter like the one this guy applied on the right side, it knows that he wants to extend his or expand his eyes. So it knows that where the eyes are, and it can do that. Whenever you open the mouth, it quickly detects, okay, he's opening the mouth, and whatever filter you apply, that does the action based on that filter. So this is also a good use case of machine learning. Another one, and probably the last one which we'll be discussing here, is Rotimatic. So who would have imagined that making a roti can also involve machine learning? So Rotimatic, for folks who doesn't know, it's picking up very fast in Europe and US. Among the Indian diaspora, people who eat roti as their daily bread. And I have purchased this machine around a couple of months back, and it's awesome. It makes nice rotis, and a lot of job of grinding wheat and atta, and everything is gone now. So yeah, machines are taking over, true. But so what has machine learning to do with this? So there are two major steps in Rotimatic. One is creating this dough, and second is creating this roti itself. Now, same experience with Alexa. The first day I say, Alexa, tell me weather, it might give me a wrong answer because my accent is different. And then after certain days, it will give me the right answer. Same happens with Rotimatic. So on the first day, my roti was all broken. It is not the perfect roti. And they declare that in their website on their customer service FAQs, that your first roti might not be as good. Your second roti also, but it will eventually learn from the behavior and create better and better rotis. And it has become better for me, for us as well, at least. So when we got this machine for the first time, it didn't make good roti for the first, and it made small rotis, but now it is making well nice size rotis and very nicely roasted from both these sides. So why machine learning is important here? So if machine learning disappears, if there's no machine learning, a person who is building this Rotimatic machine might have inserted a simple code which will run for all these machines, which can just in this Rotimatic there are three inputs. One is the atta, which is a wheat flour, the water, and oil, and it uses all these three inputs to create this dough in the roti. So if machine learning was not there, it would be a a single algorithm which will run for all the machines, or single kind of code which will run for all the machines, which will take this much X amount of atta, X amount of water, Y amount of oil, and then grind it with the same speed. Now, why machine learning is important here? And attas can be different. You can have Ashirwad atta, you can have Sujata atta, and you could have atta of any local brand or from a local store. And every atta needs, for people who have made roti, every atta needs a different kind of water, or different quantity of water and different kind of quantity of oil to kind of grind it and make it convert into a round dough. So that's where machine learning plays a part here. So at the first, it doesn't know what kind of atta it is. It will try to grind it. It does give some options like Ashirwad and Sujata, but say it doesn't know right now. If it is not the attas which is described by in this manual, if it's a new atta, it doesn't know about it. So it tries to create a dough, and it has sensors which identifies that if the dough has a perfect shape, and if it is broken, or it is not the way it is intended to be, not very circular. So it will kind of tries different methods to make it more and more perfect. And as you make more and more rotis, the dough will be more perfect, more round, more circular, more less broken. And same happens with the roti. It kinds of it seems that it kinds of senses the structure of the roti, whether it is round, it is broken from the corners, and if it is, it kind of go back to these atta, water, and oil, and the speed of the grinding, and optimizes it to make sure that you get the best roti out of it. So after 2 months, I get the best rotis out of Rotimatic now. So this is one of the best example I can give about machine learning and how it is changing the habits and people in their daily lives. Okay, we have one more. So another one is the machine learning in the real world. Okay, yeah. So this is the Uber app, or any of the transportation app, and this also uses machine learning for surge pricing. So it predicts the demand based on the past data, and also uses the current the traffic conditions and the road conditions, whatever data is at, and tries to predict that what should be the pricing of it. It maps a demand and supply chart, looks at the older data, runs its model, and in milliseconds it predicts whenever you order a Uber or a Ola, it will give you surge pricing. So if you're running on a peak time, it understands it's a peak time, and based on that, it models run and provide you a price. No human is involved in giving you the estimate. It is all machine learning doing the job for you. And same on the right side, it happens for if you're doing a shared cab or shared services in any of these Olas or Ubers. So it uses machine learning to optimizes the route of which passengers to be picked, so that it's optimized for the benefit of the customer, benefit of the driver, and benefit of the company commercially. Yeah, so that's all about machine learning. Let me do a quick time check. Yeah. So machine learning is powered by big data. So there is no, as you must have known now, there's no machine learning if there's no data or there's no big data. So it needs huge amount of data to kind of make the predictions right. If I'm predicting a weight of a person just by using his height and 10 data points, my model will be very wrong. I would lose trust on that model, and it will not give me the right predictions. So it has to be supported by big data. So what is big data? I heard from the last session that you guys have learned about something about structured and unstructured data. I wasn't able to attend that session yesterday, but let me give you some perspective of that. The traditional database, so in the picture you see two photos. One is the traditional database system and one is the big data system. So traditional database system, you see it is well organized. It has its shirts well hung in the hanger. Then it have a drawer for socks and your napkins and your handkerchiefs, and then for jackets it have a separate place. And the shirts are all also organized by color, like brown, white, green, blue, like that. And on the right side you see a messed up room where everything is just dumped into the room. So this is, I'm trying to make an analogy between the traditional database system and the big data system. So when you are more organized, it comes with a trade-off. So what is the trade-off of being more organized? The trade-off is you have to spend more time in being organized. And that's where these big data systems come into picture, or the right screen comes into picture. Here, if I have to just put up a shirt on the left screen, I have to first find the hanger, find the right color, and then put the shirt there. If it's a green color shirt, I have to put it in the section where all the green shirts are. On the right side, I'll just dump it and forget about it. move on. So that's a difference between traditional and big data. So in big data, you just want to dump things as it comes. Because you are dealing with large amount of data, you don't want to do the hassle of organizing the data while lumping it. We'll understand it more in more detail as we go in the slide why we are doing that. But that's what happens. It's more unstructured and it's more a dumping ground. And later it has other tools and technologies which help you organize that data and makes it faster for you to search and do everything. So traditional system, they cannot scale. Big data system, they can scale for these reasons. Yeah. So imagine if you post on FB were using traditional database system. So what would happen is if you wrote something, what's on your mind, you hit a post button, and that post button will, if it's a traditional system in the backend, it will try to search for your user from the million user and the terabytes of database or petabyte of database, and then find your user and insert that post into against that user. So that's the traditional system being more organized. In the big data system, so if you've gone that route, Facebook would not have been successful, because if you're posting something and if you see the response after 2 minutes that it has posted, bad customer experience. And not just Facebook, if you only also take example of Amazon, if you place an order and only after 5 minutes you get the confirmation that the order has been placed, that's really a bad experience. I mean, no one in the world of online shopping or online social medias, no, you want quick response. If you posted something, you want to see the response that it is posted or not. So that's where big data comes into picture. You post it, it will just dump it into a dumping ground, and later it will take care of structuring and everything in the background. So the pros and cons of big data. So it is low cost for storing huge data sets. So because you are just dumping it, you don't. So if you are managing something like that room, you need a bigger space to keep things in a managed way. But because it's a dumping ground, you can store a lot of things in a smaller space. So that's why it is low cost for storing huge data sets, can easily scale to terabytes and petabytes of data. Traditional systems cannot. They will break if. So this bombardment of data or explosion of data happened in the last decade. If we would have continued with traditional system, none of these startups or these unicorns like Facebook and Amazon would have appeared. Low cost of management, as you have seen. Traditional system comes with a trade-off that you have to manage them, and with management, trade-off of time comes into picture. But with big data, that is not an issue. Faster retrieval of data with huge data sets. So you might have a question that how the data is retrieving faster if it is just in a dumping ground. So from the left image, from the right image, it is very difficult for me to fetch the green shirt. But it is not actually, because the systems the systems which comes with big data technologies, it helps you to do faster retrieval of data. And so Google is the best example. You just start writing keywords, and within milliseconds or maybe less than milliseconds, it gives you the recommendation. Okay, this is what you're thinking about it. It mines the data from its big data systems and gives you the response there. Okay, one good benefit of big data is it can store different file formats. So most of you must be aware of the file systems like file formats like txt, or that's a text file, or Excel file, or a CSV file. But these are not, when we are doing something like video streaming, machine learning or video streaming, or we are doing image recognition, these are not the files we are interested in. We need multiple sets of files. So we need image files, we need video files, we need JSON files, and there are many other format of files which the traditional system would not support, but big data supports them very well. The only disadvantage of big data which I can see is it's very complex to build and understand. So that's where the engineering hat comes into picture. So traditional system can be, it also requires, traditionals also requires engineering effort, but for building big data, it is more focused, or more, what do you say, more valuable engineering that is required to build those systems as compared to traditional. So that is one of the cons which comes. But given the benefits it has and need of the hour, I think it makes more sense to switch to big data. The practical applications, one of them we have already seen, which is machine learning. So there's no machine learning if there's no big data. So it's a real use case of big data, which is the machine learning algorithms. Then the real-time systems. This is also a very nice use case. So imagine if you have a bank account and there's some fraud happened in your bank account, which these machine learning systems can detect based on past data of fraud, and it sends you an email after, say, few hours or a day. it doesn't make any sense, right? The fraud has already happened. You cannot take any action after a few hours or after a day. It should be real time. So as soon as the fraud has happened, and you must have seen this, I mean, you must have been using online banking, and if something of that kind happens, you quickly get an email that, hey, we see activity which is not normal in your banking systems or bank accounts. If you feel that this is good, then ignore it. Otherwise, you just log in the system and see what is happening. So it's very efficient for detecting frauds, credit card fraud or other kind of fraud. Even one other use case that you must have been seeing in your regular life is illegal login. So even as small as a Gmail account, if it gets logged in from a different location from my usual or daily location, it sends me an email right there that, hey, someone is logging you from this location. If it is okay, ignore this email, else you take some action, change password or whatever. Now, all of this will not make sense if it is not real time, and that's where big data comes into picture. Big data helps you to generate data real time. And similarly in streaming media and Netflix and Amazon Prime. So if you have seen something, if you are seeing something in a Netflix series and you pause something at a certain time, let's say 23 minutes or 40 seconds, and you close Netflix, the next time or the next second, if you again reopen Netflix, it will start right from that particular point. So that's the speed of the feedback that it is giving to the system in real time, that how much data have you streamed and at what point you are. And as you close, it is able to send the signal, okay, you're close at that point, and resumes your video right from that point. So all of this is enabled by big data. Okay, so this is how the journey of big data looks like. So the first stage is the data sources. So for example, Facebook, Twitter, Amazon, Google, all of these are data sources where a lot of data is generated. You're posting something, you're ordering something, all of this is data. So how to store that data? The different, these are just the sources, but the data storage comes the next stage, where how you store that data. So that's where the different file format comes into picture that I was talking about, like image files or video files and all those things. So if you have heard about big data in the past, you must have heard about Hadoop. It is a very famous technology and all over across the big data space. So Hadoop is nothing but a storage engine. So it helps you store your files, any kind of files, and help you do it fast. So this is after we've identified the data sources, we identified the data storage, and there are other data storage as well, MongoDB and Cassandra. So these are the data storage technologies that you can leverage if you're building a big data system. Then there are tools for data mining and data analytics. So these two goes hands in hands. Data mining is a more towards mining the tools to get the business, extract the usable data from used data sets and find relationships and patterns. So there are different tools, RapidMiner, SPSS, and there are many other tools which helps in data mining. And then data analytics is more towards, so data mining also does data analytics, but the data analytics stack, it is very much focused on only data analytics and not mining the data. So mining part is already done by data mining. It has kind of an aggregated data, and now it wants to do analytics on that aggregated data. And you have big data tools and technologies available to do those analytics and do it very fast, like real-time fraud detection that comes into a picture. So it have analyzed that the fraud has happened, and it is very quick to kind of analyze it and sends an email or notification to you within seconds. So all of this is enabled. Spark is a very famous technology here for data analytics, and we have others as well, Kafka and IBM Analytics and more. The next is data visualization. So when you have used data, all of the data would not make sense if it cannot be visualized. You cannot find any pattern, and you cannot make any business sense out of that data if it cannot be visualized or it can be seen in a way or consumed in a way which is beneficial for the end user of the business user. These data, I'll talk about these data visualization more in detail. We'll also do a demo here, but there are certain tools like Tableau, Looker, Qlik or Click, which helps you in providing these visualization capabilities. Some of them are free, some of them are licensed, and some of them have different pricing models. So you can select based on one of them. Tableau is a very famous one. I have used Tableau a lot in my past experience, and we'll do a demo on Tableau as well. We'll do a demo on a trial version of Tableau. And yeah, this is pretty much it for big data, I guess. Yeah. So what is data visualization? So that brings us to our next topic, visualization. So visualization, if you see, so if you are working for an employer, you have a manager. So these are the tools and technologies which helps you create an impression on your manager very fast. So and it's easy. It's not that complicated. 10 years back, if you look back 10 years, these technologies were complex, and you actually need we call it business intelligence also. So if you hear somewhere this term business intelligence, it is nothing but data visualization, most of it. So business intelligence was a very hot skill, say 10 years back, because it involves some kind of level of engineering to build those dashboards and visualization. But these days, all the companies are working hard to make technology more and more available to not just the engineers but the end users, and that's what has happened. So visualization, we'll talk about few use cases which has really helped and are very famous. So we'll talk, I think, couple of them. So one of them is the cholera outbreak. So this happened in 1854. Back in 1854, we are talking about, I mean, at least 200 years back, almost 200 years back. So this is in Soho County in London, where the outbreak happened, and the outbreak was so bad that in 3 days, over 120 people died. So there was a doctor called John Snow, and he's not the Game of Thrones Jon Snow. He's the real Jon Snow, the hero in the real world. So he was actually a hero with what he did. He plotted the deaths happening in his on the map of Snohomish County. So this, not the Snohomish, but the Soho County. So this is just a snapshot of the map of the smaller part of a whole Soho County map. But this snapshot shows all the red points where the deaths have been happening, the location where the deaths have been happening. So in 1854, he had this huge map of the county, and then he was trying to map these red dots, understanding where the location of the fatalities. And the bigger the circle, more the death. So if you look deeper into this particular map, you'll figure out that this particular street, there's a lot of cases. So you see a big bubbles in this particular street. I think this is called Broad Street. Yeah, it is not very clear, but this is a Broad Street. And it came out later that this analysis or this visualization was very helpful for them to understand that what is the root cause of this outbreak. The root cause was a water pump which was installed here, and which the water of that pump was somehow kind of filthy, and that has caused this particular outbreak. So this is a perfect use case of how visualization can be used of something like as severe as a pandemic. We all are living in a pandemic, corona, and I think I'm sure folks have been investing a lot of time in understanding the patterns of how this pandemic is happening and the root causes. So there are companies which are making vaccines, and there must be folks who's doing these kind of trend analysis or pattern analysis to understand the pattern of who is getting impacted, how they're getting impacted, and what places it is spreading faster than other places. The other one is the other example I want to show you is the US election, which has happened in 2020. So we all know that, so Donald Trump is from Republic Party. Republic Party is red color, and Joe Biden, who actually won this election, is from Democratic Party, and Democratic Party is blue color. So this is the map of 2020 election, that the small squares are the counties, and this is the map of how the election, based on the election results, which candidates won from which county. Now, looking at this map, can you make out the Democrats win or the blue party win or Joe Biden win? You cannot. It's all red. So how would you say that? I mean, you might ask a question that how would Democratic win if the ratio of the blue color is so less in this map? Let me show you another map. So this is by geography, and this is by population. So now it might start making sense to you that the places where Republican were winning are the places which are less densely populated, while the places where Democrats are winning is highly populated. So if you see this, the one which I'm pointing, the graph, the bubbles here. So these bubbles are big bubbles, means big population. So these counties are all California counties. This is Washington County, where I live in, where Seattle is. This is New York. So you all see all the blue bubbles. These are the famous cities and the largely populated cities. Most of the Central America is not that widely populated, and that's where Republicans won more. But if you go by population, if you go by number of votes, definitely it's a democratic election. So let me quickly show you this particular visualization. So it's a small GIF created so it's coming from a tweet from one of the user called Kareem. Let's see this GIF and how beautifully this explains. So first it has the spread over geography, and then it converts the spread from geography to population. So I don't think there is any other way of explaining this better. So if I was given a job or you were given a job explaining selection in terms of geography and population, I might have created multiple PPTs and multiple Excel sheets and done a lot of analytics over that. But I don't think there's anything beautiful or anything more powerful than this graph to explain the demographics of USA in terms of this 2020 election. I hope this makes sense. All right, moving ahead. Yeah, the tools and technologies which are widely used, or Excel is widely used. It is a very powerful BI tool. When I say BI, it's business intelligence. It's a very powerful data visualization tools. It has certain graphs that you can use, and people have been widely using it. But I mean, it's after a certain point, it becomes less user friendly, and that's where these tools comes into picture. So we have Power BI, we have Tableau, we have QuickSight, and MicroStrategy. So Power BI and Tableau, these are the pretty famous ones. And QuickSight is powered by Amazon. And then this MicroStrategy is a more complex one. So how much time we have? I don't know if we can do a demo here or not.
We have half an hour. So if you want to, I think we'll cover these demos maybe separately. And we've done this Power BI and Tableau. We've done also dedicated sessions on these. So if you want, we can skip this as of now.
Oh, then it makes more sense to skip, because if you have done, then you know about it.
Sure.
Okay. Okay, so let's move ahead. So GDPR and data privacy and security. So you being chartered accountants, you must be dealing with a lot of data. And when it comes to data, you must know the privacy and security practice that are being followed across the industry of data. So, and this has recently been come into a lot of focus after certain outbreaks of these big companies. Cambridge Analytica is one of them, which you might have heard a lot in 2018. So that was the time when the whole story broke out, and people were talking about a lot of data privacy and is their data secured or not, and do they know how their data is used and all those things. So let's talk a little bit about the Analytica story, what happened. So it was a data analysis company, mostly focused on or tied with their customers are mostly the political parties. They were accused of using and securing 50 million Facebook users' data. So imagine 50 million Facebook users' data. It's huge data, and not just data, it is very rich data. So every Facebook user, sometimes I feel Facebook knows more about me than myself. It knows my behavior in and out. If I'm on Facebook every day doing something at least for 15-20 minutes, even for 15-20 minutes, it understands my behavior, it understands my liking, my disliking, and a lot of things, my geography, my demographics. So this is very rich data which they got access to. And how did they acquire this data? So they created an app. You must have been seeing a lot of apps running around in Facebook, and be very cautious when you're using a third-party app and you don't know about, because it might be there with a malicious purpose. So they created an app which asks users few questions, and users answer those questions, and then based in the background of the app, they're collecting data from the users, and not just the users, but also the friend of the users. And that was a little bit fishy, that how data of a user is collected, because the user might have given him permissions, but how the data of a friend of a user can also be collected. And that's where Facebook were asked questions about. So they acquired this data using some app, and what did they do with this data? So they created personalized profiles of people using this data. So think about it. If Facebook or this data knows me more than myself, then how risky that data is, and how much that can be misused. So if you have a personal profile of these million users, you can change the psychological behavior of these users. You know that the screen time of these users is X number of hours, and if you keep shooting them advertisements of a certain for making a certain liking or disliking, you can easily do that. And so Arpit was talking about social dilemma. So if you look social dilemma in Netflix, you will kind of understand what I'm talking about. So if this data is breached, it can be used in multiple ways, misused in multiple ways. So that's what happened. So that was allegedly happened, where this data was being used by political parties, and it's alleged that it is being used to rig US 2016 election, used by political parties, and it is also heavily being used in the Brexit that happened in UK. So it was used for making a perception that what is good and what is not. Because it knows the person. So if it knows you that you dislike something, and then it tries to show you content which will content or advertisement driven by a political party or a company or an organization to help you minimize your disliking or revert your disliking into a liking. So if you see more and more positive things about something, you kind of in your subconscious mind, you kind of think that it is not really that bad, but it might be good as well. So that's what happened, and that's where GDPR came into picture. So GDPR is the General Data Protection Regulation. So it is the new European regulation, and it's been widely popular among the companies who are using users' data. So it has not been adopted in all of the countries, but it is the gold standard, and it is considered as the gold standard when you are playing with data. And all of the big companies, they want to be GDPR compliant, so that the users can trust them. What is GDPR? So GDPR is there are certain it's a long list of things what GDPR is, but I'll just give you some brief about it. So it is about obtaining consent. So previously, when for example, for the app that we talked about, that doesn't have any consent that whether your location data is used or whether your Facebook data is used and whether your camera is used. But nowadays, if you install any app, any good genuine app, you will see that it is clearly asking for you that do I have consent to use the location, or do I have consent to use the camera, and all those things, and that too in a clear font. It is not like it's by default it has the access and there's something in the terms and conditions where it is written that you have the access, and then just go and figure out where you can disable those access. It's not like that. It should be specifically mentioned that you want to give access or not in clear fonts and clear language. So that is obtaining consent. The second is timely breach notification. So if a security breach happened, so it is said that the breach happened with Cambridge Analytica, but the user's data which was breached was not made public. There was no public announcement that your data is breached, and it only became public when the news got broke. So that's where this law came into picture, that if the data of a particular user is breached, the data collector should have reported that within 72 hours. Okay, so next is right to data access. So this is also interesting, and many of the people don't know about this, but any of the GDPR compliant company which is collecting your data, so everyone, like the ones which you're talking about, Google, Facebook, Amazon, you can actually access your own data. You can request your own data from them. So let's try this. So if I go to Google and I say request my data Amazon, so you see there's a way of you to I mean, these companies have created way for you to request your own data. This is coming after GDPR. Anything, say Facebook, so you will find something, how can I request my Facebook data? It has procedures around that. Again, and even for smaller startups or smaller companies, like let's say we talked about Robotics. So Robotics must also have somewhere in the privacy policies written that if you want to request your own data, so see how these policies are now brought up, what information we collect, how do we use your data, what are we doing with the consent, who will we share the data with, how's data processed, and here you go, what rights do I have? So you have the right to ask for a copy of your personal data to correct, delete, and restrict. So you are in the control of your own data now after GDPR. So right to be forgotten, I mean, similar to right to access, if you want your data to be deleted from Facebook, there are methods or there are ways of doing it, of requesting your data to be deleted, and then the company is bound to delete all the data, and it cannot run any of the machine learning algorithms and do recommendations for you. You don't want to. Data portability is another one where this gives users the right to their own data. So this is similar, but in a way that you can acquire your own data, but you can also you have the control of your own data to be used somewhere else with your consent. So if you get your own data and if you give some third party to make use of that data, so you are free to do that. And privacy by design. So this is very important. So whenever you are designing something, designing some architecture of an application which involves data, involves a component which collects data from a user. For example, you're registering users and asking him questions about his demographics, or you're collecting data in different ways, like user posts from some social media. If you have a system which is collecting users' data, so it should have privacy in its design itself. While designing only, there should be a corresponding component which is taking care of how the privacy of the data is controlled. And if it is not part of the design, that means it is not GDPR compliant. So failure to design your systems of data collection the right way will result in a fine. Okay, so this was all about GDPR. I'll spend some time in cloud technologies, and then I think we'll open up for questions. Okay, so this is another visualization which is helping you understand that what is the market share of cloud technologies. So cloud annual infrastructure service revenue is $101 billion. It's huge and it is growing every year. I mean, more people are moving towards cloud than their on-premise systems, because it has multiple benefits, which we'll talk about. The major players in this technology or cloud services is the major one is the AWS, Amazon's Web Services. In Q2 2020, it was estimated to have captured 33% of the cloud market. And then we have Azure, that is powered by Microsoft. We have Google Cloud. One interesting thing about Seattle, where I belong, is it is a hub for all these cloud technologies. So Amazon Cloud is all developed here. And after Amazon, Microsoft is also based in the greater Seattle area. So all the cloud development with Microsoft happens here, and Google has recently set up there. So Google was based in San Francisco, which is the Silicon Valley, but all their cloud infrastructure they have started in Seattle. So Seattle is kind of becoming the cloud valley of developing everything on cloud here, and it has a huge resource pool of using cloud technologies or engineers working in cloud technologies. So it makes sense for these companies, if they're setting up their cloud base, to be in Seattle. So yeah, so Google, then there's Alibaba Cloud. IBM is also working. IBM was a lot of our servers and everything, the on-premise architectures and systems were built on IBM, but they are also moving into cloud because there's a lot of opportunity in cloud now. Salesforce, Tencent Cloud, Oracle, everyone is moving to cloud and trying to get the share of the market, the growing market. So what is cloud technology and how it's different from on-premise? So let's take a simple example of you running running your servers. Or let's take an example where you have a data center, you have a lot of servers, then you have to maintain all the servers, you have to keep the temperature of the data center and make sure that the data retention and everything is taken care. But ideally, it is not your job. Your job ideally is to do the do the business. So that's what cloud technology is abstracted out of it. So it has abstracted the complexities of managing those servers and the infrastructure and all the things related to that, so that you as a company only can focus on your business and don't have to worry about managing all these things. And why startups prefer cloud over on-premise? Because they don't want to deal with multiple things like managing their data centers, the support and maintenance of that, the cost related to managing a data center, and yeah, even scaling a data center. So let's say you have an application, or a startup has an application which has 10,000 users today, but it suddenly picked up and scales to say some million users. Now, if it's an on-premise system, you might have to acquire more real estate, install more servers, and then do more management, support and maintenance of those servers. But with cloud, it's few clicks away. You just request 100 more systems, and it will take a couple of minutes to spin up, and you're ready. You're ready to scale from 10,000 users to 1 million users. And that's how startups are making it happen right now. So they don't have to worry about scaling challenges and other challenges like managing these data centers or cost of running these servers for 24 hours. So most of the work, this is also one of the challenges. The cost of on-premise is high because you're paying for all the 24 hours, but there is a time when your server is not actively working, but you are still paying for that because you have acquired those servers. In cloud computing, you only pay for what you use. So if a user has made a request and your application has to run only for 2 minutes to serve that request, you only have to pay for those 2 minutes. That's how it optimizes the cost. Data loss recovery, this is a major thing that every big company has to take care of. But with cloud, you don't have to take care of. Everything is taken care by your cloud provider. Managing the security of the data and compliances. So cloud is also taking care of the security. It has the best mechanisms to secure your data. If you would have developed it, you have to build a system around security. You have to hire engineers and do all the checks and balances to make sure that their data is secure. But with cloud, you don't have to do that. So saving cost of resources there, and even same for compliances. So the cloud technologies are trying to be more and more compliant as they see more and more compliance coming into picture with the changing regulations of data. So yeah, startups can just focus on implementing ideas. All other infra-related complexities are taken care by cloud. So below are certain applications that are these are all AWS. So I belong to AWS organization within Amazon, and I work on AWS technologies day in and day out. So we build these tools and technologies, and these are pretty these are the services which are very famous across the globe, and many people are adopting these services. So one of the famous is Amazon S3. So there's nothing but a dump of data. So you heard Hadoop. So it is similar to Hadoop. So if you have any file, any kind of file, you can just dump that in S3, and there are other services which can help you process that file. In the on-premise system, the storage and processing, everything was done in a single server, but this has decoupled all the things. Storage is very cheap. I mean, hard disk, you know that how cheap the hard disks are. So they don't want to couple these storage and computing platform together. So storage is different, which is cheap. You can store as many data and just pay for the storage. And for computation, you can pay for the time you are using this computation or using those using that application. If it's 2 minutes, then you're only charged for those 2 minutes. So yeah, I'll not deep dive into these technologies, but these are really cool. And for people who are working with or who have seen this migration from on-premise to cloud, they can imagine that how these cloud services are helping them, and in terms of usage and in terms of cost. Yeah, so yeah, that's pretty much it. So we are into the question section. Bring it on.
Superb. I mean, amazing. What a level of insights that we had today. I think everyone has, if for everything else, everyone has appreciated the thing called Routingmatic. We've got a lot of feedback. Just friends, believe me, if there is a hardware which is reading the patterns that you want to create, that you want to create a routine, just imagine what all this can be done when you want to do for financials. So anything that you want to extract, yesterday we talked about guessing the capital WIP, or coming to a conclusion of say a closing stock, or say a particular investment. All of this within a flash of an eye. I think it can be done if we have something called as machine learning, and all we have to do is help learn the machine from the various past data analysis that we have, the data that we've got. We can just upload that data. The machine itself will calculate, itself will do that, all its algorithms, and probably come to a solution. Fantastic. I mean, these level insights. Thanks, Aditya, for bringing these insights here. There are some questions, and I would take them. They're fantastic questions that we've got. And I also have with us the dynamic vice chairman of this Digital Accounting Assurance Board. He's joined us right from Jammu and Kashmir, where ICI is right now about to launch their own branch at JNK. Welcome, Daya sir, to this fantastic conference. And just to give you a brief of what we've done so far, we've talked about artificial intelligence, we've talked about data overall, big data, data mining, and everything. Then today we had robotics. we've actually seen a demonstration of bots doing a GST compliance, a GST reconciliation. And right now we've just talked about a variety of things, including the most critical aspect, that is the machine learning, and how it is impacting the lives in general. We are into our Q&A session, and I would request you to please stay with us, and then I'll come back to you for your comments and your views. Friends, he's the man behind implementation of so many technology and so many aspects in ICI, and more importantly, right now he's also the MSS board, and that he's heading, which is ensuring that we ensure smooth process for onboarding all the young chartered accountants to apply for their membership at the earliest. To come to the question, Yogesh Naleji has asked the question, are you aware about any laws that are to be complied by online sellers to protect data leak? Aditya ji, do you know that?
So online sellers to protect data leak. So so what do you mean by law? So are you talking about the government regulations that are in picture?
Government regulations, yes.
Yeah, I think there was good enough discussion about that. So if I get the question correct, so it is like a e-commerce company if he's not leaking a seller's data. So
True.
if it's a company of scale of Amazon or any other e-commerce like eBay or something, I would not expect them to. I mean, there are definitely laws, and I would expect them to not break those laws because they have to pay a hefty price of it. So there was a testification of so Jeff Bezos, the CEO of Amazon, he testified before the Congress for the same reason. They asked them questions regarding how the seller data is used, and so it has been very much scrutinized at how the data is being used, not just the users. But yeah, that's a good question. How about the seller? So online company cannot use sellers data and kind of bring their own stuff using that data. So yeah, there are definitely strict regulations around that, and the companies are adhering with that.
All right. Deepak Chopra ji has asked a question. Can big data be applied to ERP database for analysis? And has this been done, if you're aware? And how are video, audio, picture files made available for analysis? Can you do analysis using these as well, video, audios, and pictures?
Yeah, so big data comes into picture when so ERP is more structured data. So there's a traditional database system, there's a big data, and there's data warehouse in the middle. I think ERP deals with the data warehouse because it is more structured data. It's a more tabular data where we know what columns are what and all those things. So so I'm more tempted to say that it is more towards data warehouse and not big data. It is used data, but it is not unstructured data. So that's why I'll not categorize that as big data. And the second question was regarding the video files and audio files and the image files. So that is something which is not very easily consumable, and that requires an engineering hat to kind of consume that data, understand that, and run machine learning models over that. So it is not as consumable as a CSV file where you can see text. There are tools and technologies which you have to grasp and learn. There's a learning curve to kind of use that data.
All right. We've got another question from Shivani Gupta. Sometimes when an app asks for certain permission and we deny the same is not accessible or works. What can be done for such apps? So the app doesn't work. So it is compulsory to give them those permissions. So what do you think can be done?
So if you're not feeling comfortable or you're not confident about giving permissions to that app, I mean, basic recommendation would be don't use that app or don't install that app.
But then if you want to really use that app without giving them permission, is that possible?
I mean, it depends on the owner of the app. It shouldn't be the case if it's a genuine app or it's a genuine GDPR compliant thing. So they should. So if the app really works with a location, for example, a camera, it's a camera app, and if you don't give permissions to the camera, I mean, there's no use of that app. So the app will only ask for the permission of a camera if it has mandatory permission of a camera, if that is the base of that app. Otherwise, it should not do that. And if it is doing that,
there is this new option on every app that give permission only while using the app. Even that options have started coming now these days. I think it's getting matured, but I think the context is it asks to search its contacts and all of this. So that is where it becomes really risky.
Yeah, right. But again, if the app is asking for context and you don't want to give the context, and that the usage of that context is just not for the app but just for their data collection purpose, the app should not be making it mandatory. That is not the ideal case.
All right, there's another good question by Smriti Korhal ji. You are an Indian and you are working in Amazon Inc. Now you are empowering so many machines and you are bringing in so many technologies. How are you sure that your job would remain? And if machines are doing the maximum work, how will we be relevant?
So that's an excellent question that I've been asked at multiple platforms, that machines are taking over, what would happen to our jobs? And it is not just about machines have come today. So I can talk very in detail about it. I'm all for machine learning and automation and everything. But if you see from early days, if we haven't adopted technology, we'll still be rubbing the two stones for getting the fire. The matchstick would have never come into picture. We just say taking the job of people who are rubbing the stones. So in terms of my job, so there was a very good quote from one of the CEO, I don't remember from where, but he came to Amazon and gave a lecture, and the same question was asked to him. So his answer was, machine can do everything which is mechanical. They cannot do anything which is innovative. So in terms of, let's say an example of roti matrix. So making a roti is a mechanical thing. There's no innovation. You have to make a dough, you have to flatten the roti, you have to roast it, and then serve it. But making a delicious a sabzi, that is innovation. Everyone does it in their own way, put their own masalas. So it would be very difficult for machines to do that. So in case of my job also, if I'm not innovating in my job, if I'm not bringing new ideas and being at the top of the technology stack, that is very important for me to do. If I'm not doing that, I'm at a risk of losing my job.
So as we heard, machines are brainless. They will do what exactly we want them to do. So therefore, if we remain smart and if we keep on learning, and as WRC always and the ICI largely does, the CPE and the learning sessions, if we keep these going on, I think we would stay relevant, and therefore we can, these machines would not overpower us. That is what I believe. There's one more question. How big data helps in medium-sized firms? I mean, I don't know if you can think about. I don't know if this is a correct question to you. And I would pose this question to Daya sir also, because he comes from a very strong technology background as well and is driving a lot of technology initiatives at ICI. But what do you think? Big data, can really big data work for CA firms? How can it work?
That is a good question, and that is something which you and the CS and the engineering has to figure out, because there's a chartered accountancy is a black box for me, and engineering might be, some piece of engineering might be a black box for you. So that's where the fusion has to happen. Yeah, frankly, I don't have a good answer for that, because it depends on if how much unstructured data you generate. If it is sizable and you need real-time analytics and you need the machine learning applications, then definitely big data comes into picture. But yeah, yep.
So I'll tell you one answer. People who are working for the banking industry, the big data, and knowing big data and knowing a good size. So for example, I'll tell you the transfer pricing practice that people are doing. So all of that we use in Kaplan and Proves and all that, it's essentially a part of big data. It's essentially doing everything on big data. Benchmarking exercise for TNMM, all of this, they are just a small version of using understanding big data. But believe me, if we start doing this on a very large scale, on a bigger level in terms of advising a bank or advising at a regulatory level, I think we chartered accountants who have so much of data can really make sense out of all this data. For example, I invite your discussion and your attention to the charts yesterday, visualization showed by Fluid AI. There was an essential big chart of doing various things, but until you know how to read that chart, it won't make sense to anyone having that chart in front of them. That is where we as chartered accountants can play a very, very important role. All right.
Even when you do auditing and you do detection of fraudulent activities, I think that's where this comes into picture. I mean, you have the data, you can identify patterns where frauds can happen, and these visualization technologies can help you just quickly see that the fraud has been happening here, or build real-time systems to notify your customers about those frauds.
So the last question, Hitesh ji has asked, is there a technology deployed by some of the players which will overhear our discussion at homes, and ML is deployed, machine learning is deployed to throw products around our discussion? I think he's aiming at Alexa.
Yeah. So that is a very good question. But so that's how, if you read about Alexa or Google Home or any of these assistant, audio assistant devices. If you read about those, the way they work is, so if you before saying Alexa, they will not send your data to internet. So they are not doing any machine learning optimization on anything you say before the trigger word, which is Alexa or Google Home. So anything that you're discussing is being heard by Alexa, is being heard by Google Home, but they are not sending that data over internet. They are just listening to you to hear that trigger word, which is Alexa. Once you trigger the word Alexa, everything that you say, every action that you take, that whatever question you ask, that is being transferred over the internet to do the machine learning and making sure they are able to respond. So rest assured, from the top of my knowledge, that is not happening. They're not listening to your daily conversations and making a profile for yourself.
Right. So that brings us to the end of this. I think the connectivity at JNK is pretty poor, and therefore Dhanivas ji is not able to join us. He's there, but Dayaji, if you can just speak without your video, that will be great. So you're not audible. Mishra ji, can you please assist Daya sir? Come through phone if you can, if it's possible.
हाँ सर, क्या बोले सर?
मिश्रा जी, दया सर उससे एक बार बात कीजिए, इफ वी कैन कम थ्रू फोन. उनका ऑडियो आ नहीं रहा है इसमें. JNK में कनेक्टिविटी पुअर है. जस्ट कॉल हिम एंड सी इफ यू कैन reach out on through join our conference through phone. वो मतलब he is trying to speak but we are unable to hear him actually. Alright friends, that brings us to the end of this lovely conference. I'm sure you would have, I don't know if you really liked it or not, but I've got feedback. People have loved it, liked it. A lot of things, so the idea of this conference was not to answer most of your questions, but the idea was to give you some questions, to start making you think about these questions, to start making you ponder about all of these various directions that are coming up and what all can we do as chartered accountants in this. We at ICI definitely we are thinking a lot on these. We have a lot of discussions, and I have personally taken this interest of bringing this out under with WIRC overall, bringing each and every speaker out so that we could set up something relevant for all of you to talk about, to discuss about, and I mean everything that we can just think of and it's happening. So why not let's start living into it. So that's it from our end. I request Palak to please. She's been here since the start of the session, and young CAs. Therefore, I believe all young chartered accountants have a very important role to play because adopting technology is of most importance, and the data and the experience, the learnings is all with senior chartered accountants. We'll have to mix that up. People who are lucky, second generation, third generation CAs, they have it in their own house. But what about others? So the young CAs today have this role on them, have this great responsibility and also a big role that they could start evolving, coming out, maturing enough to set up technology platforms for senior chartered accountants and senior CA firms, and then combine together to deliver and provide services in a unique manner. Believe me, as we heard today, SFIO is living on these data. Bots, get yourself, free yourself from compliances by using these technologies so that you could really put your application of learnings in another aspect and try and explore something bigger and better. That's the entire agenda, that's the entire motive of having a technology conference here. I would now request Palak, who's also a second generation CA, to please share a view and give a well-deserved vote of thanks to this beautiful session, and especially Aditya ji, who has joined us from Seattle, USA. Over to you, Palak.
So on behalf of WRC, I take this opportunity to propose vote of thanks to CA Aditya sir for taking out time for this session at such an odd hour. A big thank you to you, sir, for your excellent coverage on the topic and sharing your valuable insights on the same. For a person like me, frankly, who does not know much about machine learning and data visualization, examples on Robotics was really, really great. especially on US elections, where the data, how data differed from by geography to by population was actually very thought provoking. So, all in all, sir, the session was really interesting, and as Arpit sir pointed out, that it was really thought provoking. And before we end the session, a special thank you to Arpit sir for making this conference possible, and also thank you Daya sir for your unflinching support and coordination. And lastly, heartfelt thanks to all our members for their active participation. So thank you.
Super. Thank you, Palak. Thank you, entire WRC, for allowing us to set up this conference, and thank you, ICI DAB committee, for allowing us and for giving us this opportunity to host this wonderful conference. And all the logistics and staff managed by Mishra ji, and our chairman, WRC, the dynamic team at WRC, who's working around the clock in ensuring some or the other aspects in this lockdown. We do it in a unique manner, differently, and the process of learning never stops. That's it from our end. We see you soon again, maybe on another conference in a bigger and a better manner. More technology, more questions, more thought provocations, and exploring new opportunities. Let's stay tuned to that. And should you again, all of these would be recorded and uploaded on our YouTube channel. Request all of you to please subscribe to WRC YouTube channel, and all of these you will get a lot of conferences that we've done. So someone asks for Tableau, someone asks for BI, all of that has been done, and all of that are uploaded on YouTube. Just go and explore them, and have a great learning times ahead. Stay safe, have a wonderful weekend, and thank you again for joining us. Thanks, Aditya ji. Have a great, I don't know if you get a sleep now, but I'm sure with the feedback you can really sleep tight and happily.
Yeah, sure.
Daya sir,
Thank
are
you.
you there?
The pleasure was all mine.
Daya sir, are you there?
नेटवर्क का
Unfortunately.
इशू आ रहा है अर्पित सर, नेटवर्क का इशू आ
Okay.
रहा है क्या उनसे
All right.
इशू आ रहा है
Okay.
बोल रहे
All right, so we thank you, Daya sir, for at least attempting to join us. Unfortunately, we will not be able to hear you. But friends, believe me, one of the main important part that he's doing is set up a path to bring all the young chartered accountants get their membership at the earliest. And people who are not active yet on SSP, please get active on SSP. And sir, please, can you hear us?
माइक म्यूट
Sir,
है
please unmute yourself.
सर माइक म्यूट है आपका
Sir, please unmute. Sir, unmute. No problem, sir, no problem. I'm sure you're there at JNK. Once ICI gets a branch there, I think all of things would also settle out, and there would be, or the entire UT now would be on the path of development and adopt newer practices. And I'm sure there will be some opportunities which all of us chartered accountants can really explore there as well. So you're working there. Thank you, Daya sir. Thank you, President sir. All of us, all the council members are there, trying to ensure that smooth branch setup is done at JNK, and we start working out at JNK as well. As I said, he's working on a very important tool of getting young CAs quickly to membership. Believe me, on SSP now, membership is just some few clicks away of mouse button. Try and experience it. If you face any difficulties, please reach out to any of us at WRC. We'll be there to help you and ensure that you get a streamlined, smooth process to get membership at SSP. And any other activities that you want to do on SSP, if you're stuck, please feel free to reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to help you. It's really paperless, absolutely, and it will make a lot of sense for all of us to start using it effectively. So thank you, everyone, and have a great time ahead. Mishra ji, please stop the recording and go for upload.